Today's episode is brought to you by First Detachment. Are you looking for a supplement brand that truly understands hardworking athletes? Look no further than First Detachment. 1D's real world experience is what I would consider, and they consider, battle tested. I have known Justin Harris for pretty close to 2 decades. And if there's anybody that I trust with nutritional and supplement needs, it's Justin Harris. If you guys have followed me and have followed the podcast, you pretty much already know how I feel about the supplement industry. For me to get behind any brand, I have to trust the brand and I have to trust the person both. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know why. When it comes to creating formulas and putting products on the market, and there's nobody that I trust more than Justin Harris. While I love all of their products, I'd suggest that you check out the Field Rations and WTH first. Go to www.firstdetachment.com and use the code TableTalk10 to save 10% off each order. The link is in the description. Marek Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? You just go to marekhealth.com/table talk, and you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done, and then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use over the counter or prescription. marekhealth.com/table talk. The discount code is table. What's going on, guys? We are back with another episode of Table Talk. Today, my guest is Dan Bell. I really don't need to introduce, right? Because everybody should know who Dan Bell is. But if you did search on YouTube to try to find Dan Bell podcast, you're finding this other cat, which I don't know who this other dude is, but the other dude certainly is not squatting 1,003 in sleeves or 1113 in reps, and he doesn't have the all-time total in sleeves at 2485 and then reps at 2606. There's a multiply total, which we're going to talk about because there's some funny stories with that as well, which I want to get into. But the reason I really wanted to have you on the podcast outside of the training and the numbers and all that other stuff is you're fitting this in between of, I don't want to say you're a throwback to the guys that came before, but you still are representing a lot of the values that came up through all the guys before for the younger generation underneath you, to be able to follow, which is cool to see, because I think that's what the sport's really about. It's not about what a lot of people are portraying it to be about now. Thank you. It's about humility. It's about community. It's about, putting a bunch of misfits together.
Yeah, exactly.
that find something that they all share in common, and share that love for it without it being this weird ass thing that it seems to migrate to. But you're one of the, there's a group of you that are they're pushing it back against it, but they're not pushing back against it by being a dickhead about it.
Right.
You're pushing back against it by how you actually live, compete, and portray yourself and put the sport out there, which is cool to see, because a lot of the ones that have come before you are like, fuck, have they lost what this is all about?
Right.
So that's why I wanted to have you on, right?
Damn, I just got goosebumps, man. That's because I appreciate that a ton. Yeah, and that's kind of one thing I do want to portray. I do want to carry along because, I've said it a couple times before, like, the reason I got into it was because everybody was so welcoming. Everybody was so helpful. But everybody was so nose of the grindstone. Let's get this work in. Let's get done. Let's beat up these weights and then go have a good time together outside of the gym. And now it just seemed to turn, another page of these last couple of years to more entitlement and look at me or what can I do for social media bullshit. And don't like it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a false reality too.
Yep.
Because it's what you see through your phone, and then what's happening in real life.
100%.
And it's different. It's not the same.
No.
But the people who are only seeing it through the phone don't see that other side.
Of course.
You know, and I don't know how they will. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I don't know what the answer to that really is, but it's cool to see that a lot of those things are still there. You know, you know what? They're never going to go away.
No, not with this. Yeah,
because that's why most people end up coming in it in the first place.
Exactly.
I think there just becomes a point in time where maybe they forget a little bit, you know, about what it is.
Where it originated at.
Yeah, until they get really humbled.
Of course.
You know, then it brings it back. Where when I was looking through your meet history, you competed once when you were 18. Yeah. Which is a DQ.
I did not want to talk about that one.
Well, fuck, it's first on the list, you know? So, what's the story there?
I was, just got done with high school football, and I was lifting for that, and, like, I was never higher in the academic range. I just barely got through school, scraped by my teeth. I was always a hands-on learner, and I always have been. I always will be, I guess. And got done with football, and I was bored. And was at the gym training. I'd drive to Galesburg every day just to go train Illinois, and they had a poster up on the wall about the meet at Fran's gym. And there was no social media, there was no YouTube, there was no bullshit like that, open powerlifting or whatever. And I saw it, and I was like, hey, that'd be fun. And I just said squat, bench, and deadlift, Fran's gym, Chicago. Had a date, and then like I said, where you can get another register sheet to send in and mail in your check, which I had to get from my parents, you know, and did that, and went up there. It was great. The squat was awesome. So we walked in to weigh in, and Ernie Sr. standing there at the counter to weigh people in, and he's like, well, are you going to do it with wraps or not? And I was like, I have no idea what wraps are. And then he shows me a pair of France TD 500s. He's like, you wrap these around your knees, you'll get a lot more out of your squat. And I'm like, okay, great. And I think my dad bought them for me. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever used wraps were on the platform. So it was hilarious. In Nike basketball shoes, of all things. Yeah. And bench went decent. I always had a good bench. But then deadlifts came around, and I had no idea deadlift. Like, I had never deadlifted prior to that. And when we were weighing in, giving our openers, Junior was right next to me. And he gave like 601 or something around there. And I was like, yeah, if he can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't be an issue. And I couldn't pick it up off the floor at all.
Oh, shit. So I was wondering, because I saw the squats. Yeah. Right? I saw the benches. I'm like, how do you DQ the deadlift?
Yeah, of course.
Your first meet, right?
Yeah, I had no idea what a deadlift was at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I'd never trained it or anything. We did a little Olympic stuff and then trap bars. A little, I think it was in high school. But other than that, like, our coach never really pushed. We didn't really have a structured at all. Like, my high school football team was 1A, and we went 1-9 my senior year. I think we won 3 games my entire career through high school.
All right. So you obviously didn't train for this. You just saw it posted, said, fuck it, I'm doing it.
Exactly.
And then went and did it.
Yeah.
All right. So it's what I didn't put it. Was it 308?
No,
I
was like it's like 360.
So you're 360?
Yeah.
In 2005.
Yeah, I graduated high school at 336.
No shit.
And this was before that. Yeah, I was a little heavier that winter.
You think?
Yeah.
So what were you? I mean, so you played high school football, I assume.
Of course.
So when did you start playing football?
Oh, well, actually, it's a funny story. My mom started JFL, and that was when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And she, like, rallied up the money through the community and got all the pads and helmets and whatnot. And that was just so I could have an early start on football according to our community, because we didn't even have wrestling or anything. Yeah. My dad was a big wrestler in high school. And then, so 6th grade is when I started that. We, of course, played flag before that, but 7th and 8th, I graduated 6th grade and I was 315, so I had to get a special helmet for JFL. And with the difference,
you were 315 in 6th grade.
Yeah, I was a big boy.
Yeah, so, no shit.
And then,
so how's that work on the field? Are you just plowing over people?
Yeah, more or less, but I couldn't carry the ball. That was I was pretty mad about that.
Oh, yeah.
And then 7th and 8th grade, junior high, they let me carry the ball, but it was just a couple times. You'd be really surprised how fast on my feet I am. It's kind of amazing to some people, but then we broke into high school in like sophomore year. The only 2 classes I passed were from my football coaches were the teachers. Like, I just didn't give a shit unless it was during football season. Yeah. And then the rest of the time, so I always had to go to summer school.
Okay.
to be eligible to play football. That was all I cared about. And then like sophomore year, I was all conference. Junior year, I was all conference both ways. Senior year was the same thing. And yeah, it's just then after that, I got a couple college looks, but I'd never really planned or even wanted to go to college. I knew I couldn't with my grades and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I started playing rugby after that.
Okay, so was anybody getting on? Because this is fucking so funny because my story is almost the same. Not as far as the weight, but as far as the grades and all the other stuff. Because we probably share the same. You know how you had books and shit? I didn't even take them to class.
No, it stayed in my locker.
It stayed in my locker the whole time. Never took them home.
Nope.
And then I'd stay eligible just because I played football. But
Yeah.
it changed years after I graduated, where it wasn't so easy for that to be the case.
Of course.
Where I could avoid the summer school because I just got the D's.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and fucking, I mean, at the time they're just giving me D's. So
Right.
fucking works for me.
No kidding.
You know, nobody's really bitching about it. Like, fuck, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I just show up. And, but there were a couple people that were on my ass. You know, maybe you should do more. And
yeah, Coach Crothers, he pushed me a lot. And actually, his statement, it stuck with me forever. He'd come, like, when I'd leave school sophomore year, first one out the door, I could get the ride home, and I'd just go home and just hang out. And he would always be, my parents lived 3 blocks from the school. He would always be right there in his pickup truck. He's like, hey, go to the gym. Let's go to the gym, you and me. And then he's like, you're the strongest motherfucker on the field. And you're 15 years old and you don't even know it. He's like, if you just applied yourself a little bit, you could do magical things. And it stuck with me forever. My senior year, he left and went to another school, money, of course, and whatever. But that summer, I would go back and visit him and hang out with him. And he was just instilled in me what it took to grind through the weights. He taught me a lot of things in the weight room and how to program a little bit, but it wasn't too intense. And yeah, I still contact him every once in a while. I was like, hey, here's my YouTube video of the world record. I'm doing this because of you.
I think that's important to do.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, because I think we all have coaches or people as we've grown up that made a big difference in who we become. A lot of times they don't know. They don't.
I had no clue.
I'm sure when you went back and finally told him, he was,
holy shit.
Yeah, he didn't know, right? And then now to see, you know, what you're doing now, what you're lifting now is a big part of that.
Of course.
You know, at least establishing the mindset, you know, with it. At that time, did you care more about football or training?
Oh, it's football.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm the leg press. That was like one of the things that I would go in there and do, like, just put every plate I could on there and just do that. And then we had a couple, like, it was like a feet strength, like a circus thing. And there was a few, like Elmwood and then Princeville would do it. And, like, they would do it during the summer for the football teams. And, like, Galva would always take their own, and it was me and 2 other kids. And, like, everybody would just shit their pants when I squatted, like, 495 or something like that because nobody had seen that. So, like, I mean, it meant something, but then, like, I never got the gratification I get now then. It was just like, okay, cool. I just want to play football and drink beer, you know, like, at that time. So
you graduate, then you go on to machine trade. What was the trade?
Well, I actually tried 2 years community college, which I knew that wasn't going to go very far. And then finally I just, like, had to have that abrupt conversation with myself. Hey, where the hell's life going? This is like 20. And so I went to tech school for diesel mechanic, advanced diesel technology, which, like I said earlier, my dad owns a trucking company. Yeah. So every week or even during the week, I'd always be working there, picking up bolts, greasing trucks, stuff like that. So, I mean, I grew up in it. So it was second nature to me. And now I've been doing it 17 years.
So what you're saying is between the ages of 18 and 20, we're kind of like a clusterfuck.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like it is for everybody.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It was, you know, ass or beer or where's the next party? You know, it's just like I was more focused on that than anything else.
Were you working?
Yeah, of course. When I was going to community college, my mom was a glorified pharmacy tech, phlebotomist, and then she got into the drug rep after that. And I just was with pharmacy tech because I think, hey, you know, if I could go be a pharmacist, that'd be pretty lucrative. And then, like, getting into Drake was a school I wanted to go to. I saw the requirements. It was pretty daunting. And I was like, I'm already horrible enough at school. I'm decent at wrenching. I learned great with my hands, so that's probably something I should do. I just made the decision to go to tech school. The one I went to was 9 months, and I was done.
And where was that?
Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay, so you're going from Chicago to Wyoming.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. That was kind of a culture shock, but it was just that it's out there. It's an interstate town, and that's where the University of Wyoming's at.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool to have those other college kids there part of the year. But yeah, it's Wyoming. We shot gophers for a farmer for $10 a piece.
There you go.
For beer money, and donated plasma. Yeah, that was all. That was all I did because we didn't have time to go to get a real job during then because we went from school to 7 in the morning till 5 at night.
Yeah,
that's all. That's why we got done in 9 months. So it was kind of nice. But then again, what am I going to do with my student loans? I'm still paying on that fucker. So
really?
Yeah.
So that makes up that gap between, actually not all of it, right? Because you got 2005 was the first meet, then you came back at age 27.
Yeah.
In 2014. So what else is going on in between there?
There was I played rugby for 3 years, team for Iowa. That was actually fun. That was where I kind of like filled my void for football, I guess you could say. But all those guys, I was 18, and all those guys were like 25, 30, and I looked like all of them. So we go into the bars all the time. It was great. The strip clubs and all. We had a blast. And like I said, they were like, we'd walk in, and everybody's like, "Oh, he just got back from the Army Reserve. He left his ID." And they just let me in, no problem. So it was kind of great. It got the bar scene out of me before I turned 21.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice. But then
it's like a 9-year bar scene.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then like my buddy Phil, I was living in Peoria. Well, straight out of college, I got this factory job working union building mining trucks for Komatsu America on the line. It was great, but
the big fuckers, right?
Yeah, the 15-foot tall tires. Yeah, they were huge, and we'd send them all across the world. So it was pretty cool. My uncle was a welder there, and kind of got my foot in the door. I did that for like 6 years, and during that time I was working third shift, and I was just like, I need to fill the void from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock so I don't party. Because I was at that age where it's like all I want to do is party or go to work.
Yeah.
So I just started going to the gym. And my buddy Phil's like, "Hey, if you get a diet down, you could be great." And at that time, I was like 350, somewhere around there. Not real comfortable, and sloppy. Completely different composition. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then 2009, I was like, you know what? I just need a goal. And I was like, I'm getting to the age where let me try to get in the Marine Corps. Because I wanted something more out of life. I just knew where I was. And they take care of my student loans. So that was a big plus, too. And I went to the recruiting office. They're like, "Hey, you need to get down to like 260 and be able to run a mile and a half in 12 minutes." I'm like, "All right, give me a couple months." 7 months later, come back. I was at 380, and I got down to 260. It was like 11 months. So, yeah, somewhere around there. And you went into the office. It was running a mile and a half in almost 10 minutes. It was pretty crazy. And got in there, and they're like, "Hey, we really need you to get to 240." And I'm like, I'm already eating rabbit food, you know. And but the gym time was where like I kind of fell in and found where my love for it. Like I knew I needed to lift heavy, but I knew I needed the reps too. And I was grabbing every magazine I could and going to GNC because, I mean, this was like right when the Droid first came out and social media was somewhat popular, but then there was still just like muscular development.
Yeah.
That's all there was. And I was reading every one of them, getting sent to the house, and just kind of going through that. And fast forward 2013, got laid off from the job I was working at, moved back home, started going to the gym there. 2 buddies were like, "Hey, they got this charity meet going on for tornado victims in Washington, Illinois. It's push-pull. I think we should be able to do it." And we're at the gym maxing out every other day, like squat, bench, and deadlift. We didn't have any set program or what the hell we were doing. We're just gym bros.
Yeah.
We go, and I benched like 425, and I pulled 716 on my tiptoes. All the guys from Jack Gym were there because they knew W.T. Franklin. He's the one that put it on. And they're like, "Kid, if you had any idea what you were doing, you'd be great." And I was like, "I just want to party." And then that was December. February, I signed up for my first meet. So that's kind of took off from there, and it just went skyrocket. Like it's been a roller coaster to say the least.
So when you're training for that first meet in 2014, where are you training at?
It was XPF, Extreme Power Fitness, Kewanee, Illinois. The guy that owned it, he was building houses, and we talked him into buying a monolift. We talked him into like buying a deadlift bar and stuff like that. So yeah, it was awesome. I still talk to Jason every once in a while.
Yeah.
Great dude.
How did you get hooked up with Lilliebridges and
that was
crew?
Yeah, that was
those meets?
through that first one, because all those guys were at Jack Gym. And like I kind of knew of Eric through a little bit of social media at the time, because it was just starting to get popular. And I was like, damn, this is great. And then my first meet then in February, he was competing too. So he took the 275 world record, squatted 959. And I was sitting there, like I squatted 749, and I come out of the racket, start walking off to the platform, and he's walking up the stairs, and I'm walking down, and I just flipped out, like, screamed right in front of him. And he's like, good squat. And I'll never forget that. Yeah. Well, that morning I met Pete Rubish too.
Okay.
And like at that time, it was big when the washer dryer scene, that was all going huge. And I was flipping out. I was like, oh my God, it's Pete Rubish, And I tell Pete that story now, and he just laughs because he kind of remembers it. And it was just those little things that I remember from those days. They always come up. They just got the biggest smile on my face, because that was when it was fun for me.
Yeah. Well, when I listen to how you train now, it kind of resembles
100%.
Lilliebridge. So where did that mentoring or training with him, when did that come into play?
It was actually unsanctioned, but the gym that I was training at, they did a meet there for just to celebrate the powerlifters that they had, because there was like 5 of us. And Eric coached me in my first 2,000 total.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where that popped off. And senior gave me my second place. Well, at the first meet that I did, senior took first and I took second. So that's where, and like we took a picture together, and he's like, if you need any help, I'd love to help you. And that's where like that relationship kind of started. And like a couple months later is when I hired Eric to coach me.
Okay.
Yeah, and like it's still my current program. It's very, very similar.
Because when I'm looking through, the 2014 through this year, last year, you've competed at least two 100 times per year. There were some years where you competed like ridiculously, but never less than twice a year, pretty much all the way since 2014. And the lifts obviously have gone up and up and up, but as they've gone up, I know your trainings had to change. So in the 2014, was the frequency of the squat and deadlift once a week at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I would actually break it down to be almost twice a week.
How so?
Just more. But I'd never called it a speed day. I didn't know speed day. But
heavy light. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, right.
That's what it was. It was more form dialing in than anything. Because at first I had real bad issues with my technique. I had no idea how to properly align everything and stuff like that. But yeah, it's carried on. And then through the course of time, Ed Cohn's actually the one that's kind of guided me on, hey, here's your weakness. Let's do this instead of this.
Yeah.
Stuff to where we can kind of tailor it towards me. And then he's telling me, get intensity on this day, but make sure you hit your technique on this day.
Yeah.
So Ed's really helped me a ton, and that's been since 2016, 2017.
Well, the squats are one thing that I've seen. It doesn't matter if it's multiply or raw, whatever it is. After you start to get weights over 900 and stuff like that, squatting every week heavy starts to become problematic.
Oh, yeah, my hips wouldn't take it.
You're just, none of you guys are, I don't want to say none, because I'm sure there's an outlier.
Of course.
Like one.
Some Russian.
Maybe one guy, has been able to actually accommodate that to where you end up squatting every other week or maybe every third week. But the reason I want to talk about that is if we started talking about how you train now, a lot of people would try to emulate that.
Of course.
And it's not going to work because there's a reason why this is so delayed between squat sessions, right?
Yeah.
So when you were on that upswing, right, which it's still an upswing. It's, yeah. So when you're on that original part, what did a typical week look like? I assume most lifts were trained in a 7-day period.
Yeah, of course. Mondays have always been back and bicep. We call them hell day. It's usually like 1,200 reps, all bodybuilding movements.
And that's back then.
Yeah,
Okay,
I still
just
do
back
that.
then.
I
Okay,
still do
yeah.
that same Monday.
All right, all right.
Yeah, it's like it's been 10 years now. It's 8 years now. That same exact Monday every single week, and then Tuesday was going to be a lower. So if I had plans for a deadlift on Saturday, I would deficit deadlift on Tuesday with my leg accessories, bench on Thursday, and then Saturday would be a deadlift. So I was flip the next week. Monday back and biceps. Tuesday would be pause squats, and Thursday bench, and then Saturday squat.
Okay.
That was a typical regime back then, and now like I'll still do that at 16 to 14 weeks out, but at 12 weeks I cut that Tuesday all the way out, and then take all my accessories from Tuesday and move them to Saturday. And then I don't do it because typically after a heavy day during then when I already had accessories on Tuesday, I wouldn't do many accessories, maybe some reverse hypers depending on my spine felt. But I would just hit my top set, call it a day. And now I'll put like a little accessories on my Saturday, but like I really kind of go by feel and how your pump is. I say pump, but just how your body's feeling and you're accommodating with it. You know, honestly, the last 2 years, my main focus has been sleep more than anything, and that's kind of what's carried me a little bit far. Sleep and nutrition, it's carried me a lot farther over the last 2 years, where I feel like I'm kind of at a higher level, I guess you can say. The more I focused on the recovery, the better it just went for me, and then the life stress, you know, knocking that out. Yeah.
At what point did you feel that the volume had to begin to drop outside of the pump day? Like, so that's kind of more well, let's talk about that. It's more recovery, but what is that? So what's that look? What's a typical day look like? That's that pump day.
Yeah, it's a Monday, back and biceps. So would be preacher curls, and then lat pull downs, shrugs, more dumbbell curls. I rotate between hammer and then full range, and then low cable rows. And then, you know, if I'm feeling spicy or I know that, like, say if Saturday went to shit and I really didn't like the way it was, I will also do some actual rows, barbell rows, meadow rows, stuff like that. It just, because I've always been the guy that I never left on a bad note. So say something happens bad during my top set, I'll go hit like a leg press PR, or I'll go like demolish my quads on something else because I don't want to leave the gym on a bad note, because that confidence carries over to the next day. So say if I wasn't satisfied with something that happened on Sunday, I could throw different ranges or different motions into my Monday where I would feel completely satisfied with that week and just move the fuck on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how hard is this being trained? Because the volume's high. So is it the failure super heavy or moderate weight?
No, I just aim for, we'll go moderate weight, and I aim for 12 reps. And if I get 15 or if I don't stop until 20, then so be it. It's just, you know, how I'm feeling. There's been plenty of times where I got to use speakerphone because I can't get my arm up to my face trying to talk on the phone afterwards, or you can't get the wrench above my head because my lats are still so damn tight from that day. So
you're just moving, putting blood in there.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, and that's been from the jump.
100. Yeah. It, like I was saying earlier, it is more mental too, because like that brings a lot more fun into the training, and it keeps it fun for me, because when you get deep into prep and you're hitting, you know, doubles and singles, and your body's completely fucking wrecked, it's like, why am I doing this to myself? You guys stand in the shower bawling your eyes out when you're 3 weeks out, just like, this is stupid. Like, there's no reason for me to do this. Sure, I get a check at the meet, maybe, but like, you know, like, that's it. And so that Monday has always kind of set me on president to finish out the week mentally. Yeah.
Does that come out the closer the meet comes?
No, I even do that meet week.
Okay.
But it'll be like half.
Yeah.
Like normally it'd be 10 sets, now it's just like 5.
Yeah.
And that's more of a blood flow and move around and shit like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there then there's not a pump day for the other body parts, just back and biceps?
Just that, yep.
All right.
Yep.
So then where does the bench fall in this?
So 1 week I'll close grip, and then the next week I'll comp grip. And I just kind of keep that on rotation, but I keep my close grip on the weeks I squat, so I don't tax the shit out of my shoulders.
Got it.
Yeah, and Bench, I combinate here recently. Not recently, but the last 2 years, I've been putting a lot more incline in, and that's more of a pump movement too. 135, 225 for a couple sets of 10, just to fill out that upper chest. I think it was Ed said it in California a couple years back. He's like, "It's your upper chest. Like, get your shoulders." And then instantly, I went from like 490 to 525, and then here we are close to 600. So it's like you listen to those things, picking up those things, being that sponge, and finding out. This guy knows his shit. yeah. And then trial and error, of course. The only reason I'm at where I'm at is because I fucked up so many times.
Yeah. So if you're working this back from a meet, because you have to rotate your squat and your deadlift is alternated, right? Every other, and then the bench is alternated with that squat as well.
Yep.
Right. So then the close grips are every other week. Right. And then the on the deadlift week would be the regular comp
grip. Yep.
Okay. All right. It's not that complicated.
No, it's not. It's not. No, powerlifting should not be complicated.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm just helping the people that are listening because they're trying to put this all together.
Of course.
And it's like this is not that complicated. I mean, it's just working it back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like my last heavy squat, 98% for a single, is 2 weeks out from the meet, and then my last heavy dead, 98%, is 3 weeks out. And I just worked away. That's how I write my programs. Started the meet, 2 weeks out, last squat, and then just work the rest of the way up.
All right. So how's that work when you have 5 meets a year?
I do know I peak a lot better with 8 weeks, but I try to get a full 12 weekend just to get especially with wraps. Like, I do not look forward to putting wraps back on. It's been since September, but like the first couple times it takes a minute to get a callus back on your knee. That sucks, especially the way Seth wraps. Getting 12 revolutions out of 2.5s, like that takes an awful great man. But so I just fall in the calendar. Just put it in there and roll the dice. That's all you can do. And a lot of the meets that I did last year, the one in July, the meet director asked me to do it because everybody he had signed up were all newbies. And I'm like, it was an hour and a half from the house. He paid for the hotel. What do I got to lose? I'm helping the next generation. Everybody there loved it. And I was like, I cannot not do this. And where I'm at, I cannot. And I did. I squatted 931 in sleeves, benched 550 and pulled like 865. So I didn't really crush myself, and I took it like another training day.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I still get that platform adrenaline. I love that. So that was another reason. It's hard for me to say no when it's for a good cause and for good people.
Well, as you start, where's your mindset with all that now? Because as you're trying to, obviously you want to push your all-time world records, right? And
That's the plan,
you can't do that competing 6 times a year.
100%.
And you have to be able to, cycle the supplements and all the other kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's where I can see this getting really dicey. Is you do one meet, but then you're cycling, your anabolics and all the other shit for that. Then for a lot of people, it doesn't go well.
No.
Then they're like, oh fuck! Now the meet doesn't go well.
Right.
So then their option is I'm going to do another one in 5 weeks, and it's like,
or 2 weeks. Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Then it's another 2. Then it's another 2.
Right.
And then there's problems.
Brick wall after brick wall. That was my first 2 years of powerlifting.
Okay.
It was one brick wall after another.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? And then actually, I took a traveling job just to get away from it. Just to quit competing so damn much. And I was like, I got to do something different. And I took that job where we traveled all across the United States, and I was like, this is the only way I'm going to get better is if I get away from it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And now, like with last year, in September I did the meet in Oregon, and I was like, I'll be signed up for the Ghost Clash, but my body needs a break. And that's when when I go on, I do get the blood work done every month, but now it's just every 3 months, just on a rotation to keep up with where my markers are at and where I need to be and stuff like that. I've been, over the past 4 years, been paying a lot more to my blood pressure, and I notice the more I keep that regulated, the better I feel and the better I perform.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that, and the more I can say that to younger lifters, I feel it's going to help a ton. That, and then Brandon Lilly pushes the CPAP on me, and that was a game changer too. So, a lot of I didn't even think about that 10 years ago, that or even the blood work type stuff either. So I just had no idea.
So when you were originally doing the blood work, were you one of those guys that just waited until you were basically on a low cruise dose for 8 weeks and then would do your blood work?
No.
Okay.
I never did that. It's where I'm at with that. And hey, I know my triglycerides are going to be through the roof right now with taking 750. Of course they're going to be up there, but I know that my cardiologist is a pretty great guy.
Okay.
And he kind of went over the couple things with me prior when I took my blood work into him. He's like, hey, this is doing this, this is doing this, this is doing this. Move on, Dan. You're fine. And he used to work for the Jaguars. So, I mean, the guy knows his shit. So I'll trust him. Then, of course, I got another couple trusted people that I bounce the numbers off of, like where I need to be and stuff like that. But really for me, it's been blood pressure. It's been more than anything.
All right. So you have somebody that's helping with all this.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff.
100%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Which is, that's different than when I was coming up through, right? Because you didn't have that. You know, now it's one of our sponsors is Marek Health, right? So now you got companies like MarekHealth.com/table talk. There's a panel on there. By the way, go look at the panel. They test everything, but it's not just the market. They look at everything as well. So they're looking at the sleep. They're looking at, you know, does this person need a CPAP? You know, even light blood pressure medication can make a huge fucking difference.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
And you know, where shit when I was coming up, it's like, fuck that, it's gonna make me weak. You know, it's like, well, the high blood pressure isn't fucking helping.
No.
You know, so what's the lesser of two evils? And things are different now. And, you know, fortunately, you found somebody that knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I know most don't. And I know most don't, because before you found this guy, anytime you went to a doctor for anything.
Oh, their heads will explode. You gotta quit this. You gotta quit. It's like, I'm not gonna quit this. This is my life. Like, okay, I understand you're questioning it and you're worried about how I'm gonna end up, but I made it this far. You're not gonna change my mind. My mom used to take my Anadrol away from me.
Really?
Yeah, she was on top of me about that because she'd come over and check my blood pressure once a week, and I tried to stay on top of it as much as I could. And so it's just, if you pay attention to those little things, they add up to a lot more on the platform. And I know the guys younger and the guys just starting out, they don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
No.
And it's all because I fucked up so much. That's how I learned to pay attention to that shit.
You know, I didn't either, but I think when you're younger, though, you can
get away with
I'm not a doctor, right? But I got to clear that, you know. There's more room for error.
Yeah.
You know, but as you start to get older,
of course.
You start to, not old, just get in your 30s. Oh. You know, start getting in your 30s, fucking sleep matters, man.
Yeah, big time.
You know, all these things matter, and then all of a sudden pushing higher doses isn't the answer. You know, fuck, you wished it was.
Yeah.
But
if it was that easy.
If it's that easy, then after a certain point in time, you're like, fuck, it's worse.
Yeah.
It's like the higher it would fucking go, and I made the mistake a few times. I'm not gonna bullshit anybody. I mean, the higher it goes, it's like, fuck, my training's awful.
Miserable. Exactly. Yeah. It was December last year. I was like, I would just started on 500, and bam, I was 430 again, and I'm like, wow. Why am I this? I gained like 50 pounds in 2.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm like, something's wrong. And then I was just retaining all my water a lot more than normal. It had something to do with some receptors were not reading right, and the doctor went through all of it with me. But like, it gets to be miserable. Now, if I go over 750, it's the same thing. But on that, like the last 2 weeks is the only time I go close to 750. Mm-hmm. And before I was well above that.
Oh yeah,
all the time. Now, if I do that, I just feel like shit, and then I don't compete well.
Yeah, well, when you're holding that much water too, I think the one thing people seem to forget, you're also holding more water around your heart.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, which is that's part of the reason why you have a hard time walking across the room. You know, and all the other kind of stuff. But then, now you don't sleep for shit.
Yep.
You know, you know when you fuck, your hamstrings are cramping. You know,
God, that's the worst.
There's just.
Are you done? No, I'm just cramping. That's so true.
So it's. What point did you start to realize that was an issue? That dose wasn't, because for a while I think we all think that it is dose dependent.
Yeah. Right.
It isn't optimization, but then with everybody that I know that uses, there's always something that hits and they're like, fuck, you know, and it could be something's way out of whack. It could just be that muscle tears. There's something.
Yeah. Lucky enough, I haven't had any crazy injuries, but and I had my gallbladder removed. That was kind of a big thing for me because I was gearing up for the Reebok record breakers, and I've been pushing a lot of oils prior, and I've always kind of tried to stay away from orals. I know they're fucking horrible, but now I know a lot more than I did before. And I front loaded with orals, and it's just like, this is horrible. Next thing you know, took an oil filter off a truck, and it just barely touched my liver, and it took the air right out of me. And I called my mom, like, hey, something's wrong. And she took me to the hospital, and we got rushed down to another hospital, took my gallbladder out right then. I was producing no stomach bile. And they're like, oh, your endocrine system's taking quite the hit right here. And that's why I had to call Jesse Burdick. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to make it, just had emergency surgery, trying to get everything situated out. And right then I was like, all right, let's try to stay the hell away from orals altogether. Just because how much they damage your system, and the side effects aren't, the fruit isn't worth the squeeze, I guess you could say. And that's when I kind of started dialing things into more isn't always better, and just kind of playing with it to see where my sweet spot was. And I've always been the guy to where I never really tapered down. I would just cold turkey. So I know it's not good for your system now. Now I know that, but before I didn't. So now it's like what you find into taking those rolls into keeping your estrogen a lot more level, it's a lot easier just to taper all the way off. And I still suggest that to a lot of people to come off every once in a while.
Yeah.
Clear out your system. Let's get some things to recept a lot better once you go back on, because it'd be like a whole new time. You're doing it all again for the first time. That's what you want. You want that hit. You don't want to keep clogging up your receptors like a lot of people just tend to do.
Well, it's the labs can always show if when you're optimized, but I don't want to talk about that part, right? Because in the gym if it's optimized, right? So
100%.
It's for me, it's always been my whole life. When things are clicking, right? So when they're doing what they're supposed to do, the bar just feels like I got more power at the start of everything.
Speed, yeah.
It's like the speed is there, and then the recovery is on point.
2 days later, you're ready to go again.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So if it's for me to define the recovery, it would be like on your pump day, I would start to get sore later that day.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'd be fine.
Right.
Now,
perfectly okay.
Yeah. Now if it's not optimized, I might be sore 2 days later.
Day and a
or
half.
a day and a half later.
Exactly.
What indicators do you have to know that? The reason why I'm going down this is because the indicators usually aren't what people think. So when you know the shit's working, right? What indicators do you have in the gym or just otherwise that you're like, okay, this is working, or this isn't working?
Definitely bar speed. That's a big thing, and how the weight feels on my hand.
What do you mean, how in your hand?
Like so 4 weeks ago, 500 for 4, and just the way it felt, and the way I felt like I was crushing the bar. I was like, oh, I'm firing on all cylinders right now. Like, this is where I need to be. And then I literally threw that off my chest. I probably had 6 in me, but 4 was enough. I was like, this is where I need to be. We're good. Hit it for another set and called it a day. I was like, okay, it's all lining up. We got 10 more weeks. Like, I also have been pretty good about that throttle too. And I think that kind of carries over from Seth and the way watching him train. Higher intensity and go constantly, but then he runs into brick walls quite a bit. Nothing against him, I get it. And my throttle's pretty good. I'm not trying to blow my load in the gym. I want that on the platform. But where I notice it's got that 903 for 2 weeks ago. I got under 854, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm strong today. I get just a minute on the unrack. I'm like, yeah, it's 903 for a couple is going to be a good day. I just feel it. Even on the unrack, it's like, yep, this is going to be a good day. I'm firing on all cylinders, like I said. So it's something about just that feel of the weight, because 3 weeks prior to that, or 2 weeks prior to that 903, it's 865 for the ugliest squat I've had in a long time. And I was like, oh god, system needs to get more accommodated to the weight. We'll see how it goes. And then I didn't change anything supplement wise. I just kept it progressive. Actually kind of changed how I did it. I didn't go up in the amount. I just went more level during the week. So I don't know if they want to call it microdosing, but that's where I did. And it was consistently. And then all of a sudden, it just felt like I was firing, like just going full bore again. Where it's like, okay, this is where I need to be for training. This is how I need to peak into it.
Okay. Okay. That kind of goes with what I'm saying is with the you know, a lot of people will say they'll have that indication and it's like, okay, it's rolling. And then the next week it starts to fade, right? So then they jump. But that's not what they should do, right? Because you already have the validation
Right.
that it's doing what it's supposed to do. You know, anything after that, when it starts to come, it's never going to feel the same in your hand, right? And but it will feel heavy
Yeah.
at that point. But usually that's not driving the shit up, right? It's recovery, rest.
Recovery, yeah.
So your mind has to go to, what did I do last week? Like, what the fuck? How did I sleep? You know, all those other questions. And when I was younger, it was never that. Like, one bad day, more fucking juice. You know,
Yeah, I get that. I've had that a couple times too. No, the sleep has always been a priority for me the last 2 years. It's always been huge. Like, I'll even NyQuil myself if I have to.
Yeah.
It's to the point where if I'm not getting out of bed unless I got 8 hours. There's like, I know better. That's what I need. That's what your body needs. Ed explained it to me 5 years ago. He's like, doctors don't say anything about working out if you want a longevity. His doctor, and he's like, you want longevity? Take a nap. Sleep more. That's going to be the best recovery tool your body could ever have, is sleep. And whether it's sleep or ROM or REM or whatever they want to call it, just sleep in your natural state is the best recovery tool. So I kind of prioritize that along with this prep. I've been putting a lot more emphasis on my nutrition too, which I've always kind of paid attention to it. But yeah, definitely sleep's one of the bigger things where I do look back like, oh, how was I sleeping that week, or how was I eating that week, where I had all that power, where I was super strong. So,
what do you mean by pay attention to the diet? Define that.
Oh, that's funny. Well, when I was so set in my ways when I was losing, it was 4 chicken breasts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and lettuce salad, and then 6 cans of tuna on Tuesday and Thursday, and I ate a pizza on Sunday, and like I was just dead set in stone. So it's always been that was 10 years ago. So it's been easy for me to stay that way. And I grew up on steak. I kind of burn out on it now. Every once in a while, I'll get a hunker for some steak or some hamburger, but it's not. I'll go to a piece of chicken any day of the week. It doesn't really bother me. So now with its 3 meals a day clean and 2 meals a day convenience, it's just kind of the things that I've paid attention to a lot more. To where it's like, if I keep these clean, I'm not as bloated, no inflammation. I feel good. I work good. I fuck good. I train good.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I pay attention to those little things where I'm not eating like trash. Those little things help a ton when it comes to training.
Well, you still need to maintain fucking 380 pounds or 400 pounds.
100%. Yeah.
So those are big fucking meals.
Yes and no. You know, it's never. Even when I was hearing you and Blaine talk about it, like, I've never been that person that had to gorge myself. But I'll eat till I'm full, and then I'm done. Of course, last 4 years have been tough. Wife's Italian. Her mom came over on the boat, and those Sunday dinners kill me. I'm miserable after those. But yeah, it's never been hard for me gaining, and it's never been hard for me losing, as long as I know I need to stay in a deficit. Maintaining's always been kind of easy, and I maintain where I want to be because it's where I'm comfortable. Working 60 hours a week, and training. It's my weights. Since I crossed over from 308 to super, I never cared about what I weighed as long as I was comfortable. But like, I would fluctuate, 400, and it's like, oh, this sucks. Go back to 380. Oh, I'm comfortable. Or like, oh, 410. This sucks. I'd always just go back and forth. It's never been like gorge myself or force feed, I guess you could say.
Do you try to gain going into the meet?
Don't really have a choice. A lot of times, it feels like every time I do go over 520 pounds right now. Every time. It's even like with this last time when I first started back on, just even at 250, I was like, it was before I started the prep for this meet, I was like 379, and then last Sunday it was 404, and I'm like, whoa, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. But no, I don't try to, because still got to go to work on Monday. You know, and that makes a work day miserable, especially in the Florida heat. Just being that heavy, trying to get around and move around. I value being a little lighter when it comes to those days.
Yeah, that's because you said 40 to 50 hours per week. How much are you moving at work, walking?
Oh, easy. I keep this phone in my truck, but I got my work phone,
Yeah.
and I'm always getting 15 to 20,000 steps.
Okay.
Constantly, and like I go from parking lot to parking lot, and I'm doing like PM inspections, brake jobs, stuff like that. So I'm always back and forth between my truck and the truck I'm working on. So it is quite strenuous. Yesterday at this time I was changing brakes on a trailer at Amazon. So it's just like back and forth, which I like it because it's fast paced and it keeps me going. But then again, like it can be labor intensive.
Yeah.
80-pound brake drums, like.
It's what you've done though for a decade.
100%. Yeah, that's all I know.
So it's how much does that really factor into all this when it's been a piece of the puzzle since,
exactly. That's second nature.
Yeah, since the very beginning. Where that's not all your steps either, because it's not counting, the ones that you're not doing outside of work, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, every morning I got to get up. It's funny. My wife's like, you couldn't sneak up on anybody if you wanted to. I'll get up and walk up and down my hallway, just loosen up, and I'm just cracking and creaking up and down the whole time. And it's about 5 or 6 times, get the paces going, loosen up the back a little bit, and then ready to start my day, go grab a Monster and just get going. And it doesn't, I don't like keep set track, but there's also days I know I'd probably get 5,000 steps too. It's just, but when I'm working, I gotta stay busy. And like I said, the fast pace helps a ton. Yep.
The going through your meets, because we kind of went through your training real fast. At what point did you realize that you wanted to put more of yourself into powerlifting? So let's just say I'll use an all-in mentality. Like at what point did you say, this is I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to be the best?
Yeah. At first for me, it was senior telling me I would never squat more than 800 with my stance. And that really drove me. It's tell me I'm not going to do something, I'll fucking show you. And then.
What do you mean with your stance? Because it's closer?
Yeah. He's like, oh, you never squat more than 800 with that. Okay, watch me. Watch me.
Yeah.
And then it was the 1,000. The 1,000, I just wanted 1,000. At that time, not many people were doing it. And I was like Eric and another 2 or 3 people. And I was like, I just want to squat $1,000. I was like, let me squat $1,000. You can bury me with my wraps on. I want to be done. And now I've done that 67 times. So it's like those little steps. When I hit, when I tossed it all the way in, I really think it was when I was chasing Andre more than anything. Eric kind of went to Australia and started his little deal over there, so I knew he was falling off. Not really falling off, but giving it a break. And I went head-to-head with Andre in 2019 at the Tribute, and I was supposed to do the meet in sleeves, but then I didn't know he was coming. He was there, so that day, I did all my training in sleeves. That day, I put the wraps on. And I was like, I got one chance to beat this guy, the unbeaten. Let's go. And I got close, but I missed my last deadlift, which would have gave me the meet. That was when I was like, I'm this damn close. It's stupid for me not to give it a shot and go for it. And then that was in August. November, I took 25-18 in wraps.
So what changed?
I think it was the mindset and the drive. I would much rather throw all my cards on the table and blast and be the best in the world than regret not giving it that fucking shot when I was that close. And it was so awesome for me because how much I love the sport and how much I thrive off going to the gym. That's what really kind of set it off for me because this is where I belong. This is where and I've kind of said over the years here and there, still a hobby, still got to go to work on Monday, but I put my entire life into this fucking sport.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know where you're coming from with the hobby part. I get that, but it's not.
No.
With what you're risking with all that.
Yeah.
To be able to put into it, but there's always that mental shift, is when that happens. And I'm always interested as to what was the catalyst, because I think it was always kind of there, but you're like, Nah, but then something like kicks you in the nuts. You're like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, yeah. And it on the inside of my deadlift belt, it says "doubt me."
Yeah.
It's all those people saying, "Oh, you could have done this, but you can't, or you should." Like nobody's ever gonna get close to Andre's record.
Yeah.
Nobody in America will ever beat the Russian. That was one of the things that kind of set me off. And then I don't know if you noticed, but when Peter took it from me, that really lit a fucking fire under my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it just knew it was time. And I just had so many people tell me I couldn't. That was one of the things that I always kind of go back to, I guess you could say, when I go to get under the bar. Going through life and having people say, oh, you can't do this, or you'll never amount to much doing this. Like, you're just going to be a dumb mechanic the rest of your life. Like, all right, well, I guess I'll fucking show you. Yeah. That was kind of the thing. And that could be people on the platform or people in my life in general, too. It just,
Well, I think it drives it all. It's all the same, right?
tunnels it right into it. Yeah.
So what happens when you do it? I mean, what happens when you have all-time world records in both these categories? Then what's the drive? Because they can't say it anymore.
Right, and that's been a tough one for me to swallow the last couple of years. Watching that 2606 meet, I watch it constantly, and I really think 1200 could be there. It just I gotta get the right mindset for it, and that's just me getting mental with myself.
What do you mean? What was lacking?
Oh, it's not lacking. It's just pushing.
Yeah.
Pushing to go beyond, go back to that space where I was, or train exactly how I was. And don't get me wrong, that fucking environment that we got at Perfect Storm is outrageous. You know, when Seth and Miana were there, and all those guys, Danny, Tina's Hero, everybody that's at that gym, those guys are fucking great. That was a gym that moved from Illinois to there. I trained by myself for 2.5 years in Illinois, and then went to Dubuque, or not given barbell. I loved that. That we had a good group of guys there, and that gym's still thriving awesome. But when I moved to Florida to those guys, it was next level. All the guys from CTX were coming. Everybody was pushing everybody. That helped my mindset change to where, hey, I can be the best in the world, and I will be. And I did. But now it's just, like I said earlier, I'd much rather throw it all on there, know I had the balls to fucking push it, than live in regret and say what I could have done, or I could have done this. That's kind of how I handle third attempts now.
Yeah.
It's like seconds will secure my total, but thirds are knowing I had the nuts to put it on the fucking bar.
Well, seconds, right? So speaking of seconds, right? Seconds could secure your total or an all-time world record. For instance, in both of your all-time world record totals, that second deadlift would have assured it.
Oh no! Here we go.
But you missed them, and then you came back and hit them on the third. So let's go through each one of those things, right? So you're going to pull the second, which would be the all-time world record total. Your mind's in the right place, and then you fucking miss it.
Too fast, too mad.
Yeah. So then that's what goes through your head. Is afterwards, it wasn't I couldn't pull it, it's I fucked up.
I got that from Danny. Danny, my first 25-18, he's like, man, you can slow your ass down. And then in the off season, Danny even suggested or helped me pull sumo. He's like, it makes you slow down. That's what you need, Dan. And it comes from a geared world, of course. And then the 2606 is the same fucking thing, just too fast. Like I've never had an issue above my knees, but it was just too fast. And I take that step back, and I'm like, you idiot, of course. And then come to third, I'm like, got the confidence because the weights already flew off the ground. Here comes the third, and it's like, take a deep breath. Okay, finish the fucking meet. Let's get a beer and party. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for deadlifts, you got to get mental. Yeah, you know that. It's a lot easier getting mental on deadlifts than it is squats. I try to be calm for squats. I don't try to get outrageous for squats. I want that mental switch to flick for deadlifts, but sometimes a little too much. You got to know when to mediate that power and rage.
Yeah, so tell me about the squats then. So when you say calm, what does that mean?
For me, it's execution. And actually, Bill Carpenter was the one that got through me. He's like, hey, quit fucking overthinking it. Just squat, Dan. You know how to do it. You're not dumb. You're strong as hell. Quit thinking. And that's, keep it simple, stupid. One of those things, because I overthink and overanalyze a lot of things. But once I turn that switch off to my brain's not thinking, boom, execution. I give people shit about it all the time. It's like, when they warm up, Winning was the one that actually my first 500 bench was in Iowa, and it was me he was doing, and we were warming up, and he's like, "You can hit 405, but you're opening at 440." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're wasting energy. You know how to bench. You just bench for 12 weeks. Don't waste your energy. Save it for the platform." And I bench 500. I'm like, "Wow, okay." Obviously, Winning knows what the hell he's talking about. Yeah. So you go through this 12 to 16 weeks progress of doing the same squat, bench, and deadlift. You know what you're doing. You just gotta quit thinking it too much and execute what you've just done. So don't waste your energy. Just do it. It's the bit with squats. If I turn my brain off and just get under the bar and squat,
Let it be automatic.
Exactly. Yeah.
How long did that take?
Oof.
Because you got a long meet history.
Yeah. Right around 16, I want to say, was when I finally recognized was where I needed to quit overanalyzing and just squat and just break your hips first. Make sure that's your first cue, and dive bomb the hole and pray to God you stand up. Yeah, if you keep it that simple, it's good for me, anyways. Everybody's different, but for me, that's what really works.
If you've had these crews that you've been in, so you have great people that you're training with, but there's also people that I don't want to say aren't. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. Aren't so great. They're upcomers, right? They're not shitty people. They're just, they care about training, but they're just not as good. What mistakes do you see with them when you're trying to work with them as they're part of this crew that's with you guys?
I would say so. Like, I've seen a lot of training partners come and go over the years, and the biggest issue is ego or not wanting to listen. And I've never been that type of person to where I don't soak everybody's information up. Even if you're a beginner, if you see something I don't see, okay, thank you for your input. It just depends on your credentials, how far I'm going to take your opinion. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. But a lot of people now will just blow you off and be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, my coach knows this," or stuff like that. But when you get eyes on it in the gym, you can give a lot different perspective. And that's what I got a lot of gratitude for. The people in my gym, Danny's eyes, Seth's eyes, those people that watch me train every single day. Dylan, the guy's been an up-and-coming 275er, but he listens to everything, and he'll give me the input I need to hear, the honest truth sometimes that I don't want to hear, but I will hear. Joel's the same exact way. They're the honest, blunt people. Like, "Hey, Dan, you're a little high."
Well, that goes back to the first thing I said when we sat down was your ability, your humbleness, your ability to listen, to that, because that is one thing that's changed a lot in the last 30 years or so. Is I don't even bother giving unsolicited advice, even if it's in my own gym, right? Because if they're not asking, then or maybe I will once, right, and then however that's received. Coming back. And
Play
it's
it
like,
off
okay,
that.
I can tell. Real quick, it's like, okay, this is just a waste of my time.
I'm wasting my breath. Yep.
I'll focus on the people that really give a fuck, and I won't focus on the ones that, think that they're right, and then just leave it at that. Hell, it'd be better if they just said, "Hey, look, I understand what you're saying. I just don't really agree."
Yeah.
At least you're acknowledging.
Of course.
That the time was spent to actually look, to be able to see.
Being a decent person.
I don't assume, everything that I'm going to see in somebody is going to be used. That would be stupid. Right. Because I'm not in that person. You know what I'm saying? I don't have 30 years training in that person.
Yeah.
That'd be, if we're squatting tomorrow, if I see something and tell you, it's not going to be like, yeah, he's going to fix that. You got fucking 30 years of training, and it's like, no, but it may, at the same time, with the right group of people, it could be something that you're fucking up that needs reinforced.
Of course.
It could be something that you used to fuck up 8 years ago, but now it's like, man, I didn't know.
Overlooked. Exactly.
Or it was just explained a little bit different than the way somebody else would explain it.
Trevor and I talked about verbiage over and over again, how people just don't, you gotta have different verbiage for different people. You may be saying the same fucking thing, but people don't get it by saying this word and using another. Yeah.
You are. And if you look at online, I forgot, I've been online forever. When you look online, if you look at what the end result is of really anybody that knows what they're talking about, like, what's the end result here? It's almost always the same. But the way they're explaining to get there, there's 100 different ways. And that's not bad.
No.
You know, because it might connect with one, it may not connect with another. Some people like to use super big words. Some people like to use general words. As long as they're being authentic, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's when they're not being authentic, like they're trying to use these big words out of context because they don't even know what the fuck they mean. You know, then that's just fake.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're just say it the way that you would say it to somebody in the gym.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I've had to do that, even like with Seth and Danny and Trevor. Like, hey, can we make this a little bit more layman? I have no clue what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about engines, I'll circle you guys around the block all day long, but we're talking about this mechanic and this muscle. No, just this, hey, your glute's not firing, Dan. Oh, I get that.
Well, see, that's also doing them a favor too, because you know that's a world they live in where they don't realize, man, I'm a fucking mechanic that loves lifting weights. I've been doing this shit for 3 decades.
Yeah.
Talk to me like a fucking lifter.
Exactly.
You know, not like a student.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I said earlier. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's if the simpler I can make it, the more I'll understand.
Yeah.
And learning with my hands. That's all I've done my whole life. So.
Well, that's what powerlifting is still, right? You're using your fucking hands and your body.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. It's just you can lift the shit where you can't lift an engine that you're working on.
Yeah, there's some of them. It depends. It might be a Datsun. Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. I'm thinking those big fucking
Cat D60 or some shit like that.
Big shit like that where you don't want to do that, and that will get into that whole strongman thing. I'm not even going to talk to you about because I'm sure you asked that a million times.
Yeah, thank you.
You're like, hey, why don't you pull a truck? Like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
With the out of all the lifts that you've done or the records that you've hit, which one meant the most? The first 1,000?
Yeah, the first grand was big. I remember that. But I also remember after 2606, I bawled my eyes out right behind the curtain. That meant a lot to me for the country and for the sport.
Why?
Because Peter took it and I didn't like it. You know, of course, I took it. I'm a big American guy. You know, that's why I believe in you, believe in Pioneer. I'm a big person. I worked union for 8 years, and my family's got their own company in this country. And I'm a big American guy. I'm a true red-blooded American. I'm not denying it. Just meant something for the country. You know, kind of like the Olympics. Those guys that wear the American flag, they got pride in. I got pride in our country. And I remember when I took the record from Andre, everyone was like, America is great. And I kind of took it to heart a little bit. And then when Peter took it from me and it lit a fire into my ass, I did that 26. That meant a ton just to get it back. He did it in December, and I took 26 in February. It just that fire back where I hate to say it, but I think 26 is a pretty comfortable spot for me. But I know there's going to be some 18-year-old coming out of the woodwork sometime where I'm a little bit more comfortable with my number and knowing it's going to stay. It meant something to me to do it for powerlifting, for America, for, you know, the next generation, you know, what's capable.
So walk me through that last deadlift of that meet then.
I was a mixed box of emotions right then. Tom Callis and Seth were standing right there. Seth screaming, slow down, grip the bar, execute. Tom's yelling, be somebody, motherfucker. And I just, pulled into my hamstrings and ripped right off the ground. When I stood there and Steffi gave me the down command, I instantly looked right over at the lights and saw the 2 whites. That's all I needed to see. And it was just a whole weight off my shoulders. I knew I was possible. With the training, I knew it was possible. But I never imagined it was going to happen that fast. And that's what took the weight off my shoulders and cause I carried that. I carried that I made my gym leave it on the chalkboard as I walked in. Dan Bell world record 25:18, and I bought a fucking Czechoslovakian flag that's on my desk just to stare at every other day when I had to go in there, just to eat at me alive. My whole life wrapped around beating 25:79, and just to do it that fast was such an emotional journey. And of course the anabolics don't help. And I, like I said, walked back behind the curtain and just lost it. I was down on my knees bawling my fucking eyes out, but just knowing the gratification that I did something I wanted to do and not any other person in the world has ever done is fucking satisfying to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then later that night when you're at home.
About 60 chicken McNuggets and 45 Coors Lights later, I'm still cleaning up the Airbnb. My wheels were. I didn't sleep at all. We were going to Key West that next morning just to kind of get a vacation. I've learned over the years, if you pour your heart into 12 weeks, you gotta unload something afterwards, and that's exactly what we did. Tom and Cam and we all just went straight to Key West after that. But I never hardly ever sleep after a good meet. I don't know if it's the anabolics or the platform adrenaline or what it is, but I just don't. No matter how many beers I drink, I'm wired, and I know I'll crash that next morning, but I was worth every fucking cent of it. Yeah, I'm always kind of up a little bit later, but again, I've been getting that meat week. I'll pour my NyQuil and pass out as much as I can. I'll sleep 10 to 14 hours during meat week just to make sure I'm completely recovered and just overdo it almost to where I'll sleep too much to where I'm miserable. Yeah. So yeah, it comes with the territory. It's just something I've done and learned over the years. That meat night. Good luck sleeping.
Yeah. So the vacation's over and all that's over. Then you get back to the gym, and then what's going through your head next?
Oh, it's always what's next. I try to do like a 6-month plan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always what's next. Like just what we got going on now. I know April's going to be in sleeves. Matt's doing that unsanctioned, and I've kind of dialed a lot of things into really taking my world record on that one up a notch. If it doesn't already happen the week before, Jesus Oliveira competes at the Sheffield, and that's a kid that's kind of got a bad taste in my mouth with the new generation, but neither here nor there right now. So he's in line to break it at the Sheffield. I wish he was going head to head with Ray, but I don't know how Ray's doing. I know he's coming back, but Ray's not a social media guy, kind of like me. And he breaks it. That's just going to fuel my fire for that next weekend to do it again. Matt's doing it unsanctioned. Took a good set of balls, but my lifts will do the talking. I don't lift for a federation. It's not my thing. And then I got plans for October, probably Australia. There's a big meet going on over there, and seems like their head's right. It's WRPF, which I don't mind, but the director's got good intentions, and the community over there in Australia is great. I know, like, I haven't seen you being over there for powerlifting or whatnot, but that community over there is awesome. They're a lot more tight knit. You walk over there, it's like you're a god over there compared to over here powerlifting. You're in your niche. Yeah. So that's kind of the plans for this year. I'm just gonna do 2, stick to that, and that one in October will be wraps. So hopefully be able to push it up a little bit. And then, my mind keeps going to multiply, but then again, my mind also keeps going to shut it down.
What do you mean?
I've done all my checklists. I'll still be a powerlifter, but I just think it's that time. I asked Ed about 6 months, 8 months ago, like, when did you know it was time to throw your reps in and just train for you and not a number anymore? He's like, well, for me, it was more like health issues and hip issues and stuff like that. And I'm at that stage now where blasting and running and pushing these weights and stuff like that, it's not real good for longevity. I don't want to be that next guy that's getting a new hip or a new knee or stuff like that. Like I said earlier, I've been lucky enough to where I've been kind of unscathed. Tore my IT band's fascia on my bicep a couple times, but I've had no real major injuries. My father's 60, he'll be 64, and the guy's got a mile of stitches in him from aneurysm surgeries and 3 hips, 2 shoulders. That's just from overworking. He never powerlifted a day of his life. I already got that going against me. And I got one uncle that's passed away from an aneurysm that nobody had any idea about. And that's going to, I'm sure all this is going to eventually catch up to me. So how much longer do I want to keep trying to write my legacy to where I also kind of got to worry about being alive when I'm 60?
Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago, this never would have crossed my mind. You know,
Yeah.
Now, the older I get, I got a wife now, I got, a family now, no kids. But, so just like those little things keep running through where it's, hey, it might be time just to call it quits. Or, like I said, I don't know why Multiply keeps freaking calling my name, but I think I'd like to see somebody push Dave. And then Donnie posts every other day about who's going to be the next guy to total 3,000. I'm like, knock it off, Donnie. Like, I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's to answer the question of when, right? For one thing I was told, you know, and it was just always told was, and Louis was very adamant about that, never compete in any category outside of open. Ever, right? And I'm very, very, there's nothing against people that do, right? It was just, I've always been an open lifter, so I always kind of felt that there's no option outside of open, right? So if I can't compete and be competitive, you know, in open, then I'm not, so the thing I'm so thankful for about that closed the door for anything post me being really good, you know, because I'm not, that just continues the beating the shit out of things, right? Which I can do that in my own.
Didn't want to hear that,
right,
Dave.
right. Well, it does, because it's then all of a sudden you're still chasing. You can get caught up in the rabbit hole of still chasing all-time world records, but now they're masters, or now they're this, or now they're this, and so that chase is still there, where that kind of takes 10 years off that you could just hang around.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying this is the right thing. It was just my thing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like Ed and so many others, the injuries are what kind of took me out, you know? So, and it wasn't just that. I would be lying if I said it was just that. It was that plus other things, but you'll know. I'll just say that.
Okay.
You'll know.
I said, you're 35 last time you got on the platform, right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
35, 38, something around there, but starting at 12.
Right, exactly.
You know,
your first meet was 14 months before I was born.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So there's that time of all that, but there's identity shit and a lot of other things. So you came in later, which is going to be an asset for you, because you came in later. I mean, when you come in and this is all you really know.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything else.
Right. Yeah.
You know, then my whole profession was based around this.
Of course.
You know, then job based around this. So all those other things are based around that. So there's other things, but with you'll if the option is off the table to not find a way to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Then that makes it easier.
A lot easier, of course.
Now, with the multiply thing, I see where that's coming from. And, you know, that could be a doors, but I got to go down this story because I got a fucking story here. That's just, you know, so when you did your multiply meet, you know, because people say, you know, why don't you do multiply? Well, you did, but you only wore briefs, right? So you didn't get to the point where you could wear the suit. And
that was so scary.
Apparently, a little bird told me that they were like pulling 1,000 pounds off you like every week, every time you squatted for the whole training cycle because you wouldn't sit the fuck back.
Yeah.
So you weren't even using the gear,
right?
You know, at all. So them catching 1,000 was a normal thing. And then during the meet, you'll have to walk me through this one because I kind of remember, but I don't. You did hit 1,200 and your belt blew off.
Yep.
So why the reds?
No, I hit, like, I came out of the hole clean, but right at the top of my belt open, I sat down again, so I didn't completely lock it. And that was actually the prototype PAL. So, like, nobody even knew what that was at all. And the curvature was a lot different. That's why it's so great. Now it's because those little Matt's like, nobody's going to be putting 1,200 pounds on the back. We got nothing to worry about. But Danny Tinajero, he was in front calling my depth, and he was in the back room bawling his eyes out because he thought it was my knees. He didn't know it was the belt.
Now you picked up what 80 on your bench, you know, from the shirt.
Yeah, 667.
So kind of a shitty carryover.
Single ply katana.
Yeah, so not a great carryover. Then the deadlift didn't take as big of a hit as I thought it would.
I did it raw.
Oh, well, I know that, but typically just the heavier load on your spine.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it wasn't that much heavier than you squatted before. It was 40 pounds more. You got 40 pounds out of your briefs. So there's room to get a greater carryover out of all that. You know, where it's, as I was telling you before we started the podcast, it's a catch-22.
Oh, 100%.
You know, where I can see where people want to see you put it on to be able to try to challenge that, and it would be a challenge. But at the same time, I think people forget that there's only 60 super heavyweight, you know, multiply lifters.
Of course.
And there's 3,000
raw.
You know, raw.
Yeah.
You know, so and it comes down to what your drive is.
Yeah, the competition.
You know, It comes down to that, and where the rank with sleeves, where are you now?
Number one. I mean,
Yeah.
total overall, yeah. But Jesus right there, he's knocking on the door.
Okay.
Jesus Alvarez.
Yeah.
The natty kid from Texas. So
Yeah.
he's knocking on the door. He's hit 1,000 in training, and he's pulled 9 and change. But that's some things that a lot of people don't accommodate for. You know, that 1,000 squat in the same day is trying to pull 900. It's a different fucking story. And I'm not saying not anybody can do it, but it's not. That's why I always try. If I can, I'll squat as much as I can, but I'll only deadlift as much as I have to. Like, 'cause that takes a lot out of you, like you were saying. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, Jesus is knocking on the door, and it should be interesting. I know, hey, I'm ready for the next generation to start taking those numbers, but the way their mindset is and the way they're acting on social media is fucking daunting. It's really turning me away from the sport that I love.
How so?
Just, they're all fucking standing on the board on third base, acting like they hit a triple. You know, it's like everything needs to be handed to them. They're the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, you got 1,000 followers on 100,000 followers on TikTok. Congratulations. It's not not putting food on your table. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not making the next person any better. It's not making the next generation any better. You're still being a dick in the gym. Still being a dick in the warm-up room. Like, help them.
Yeah.
Help. Be a good person. It costs you nothing to be a good person. Like, what is the point of being that fucking arrogant? It pisses me off. And I get so many stories because there has been a couple times where I'll blast out of somebody that I hear a story about, and then I get 30 more in my DMs about what they did at this meet and how they were a prick to everybody. They left all the weights on the bar and they made somebody else clean up their mess because of who they were. Or like they demanded a secondary warm-up room for themselves alone. Like, who the fuck are you? You know, like, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. So I don't pay that much attention. So is that more prevalent, you know, over the last few years?
Oh yeah, big time. Especially social media. I someone say I blame it on that, but that's really the reason why. Is because everybody gets that big head, like, oh, I'm the best thing here, and you should be thanking me for all these new kids coming in the sport, and I've been coaching and helping out. Like, but I'm the best. Like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to follow your directions. I don't need to help the next person. Like, that's not where I came from in this sport. I came into the sport because everybody was so helpful, and it felt like I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Live, learn, and pass on.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
the same mentality. It's
Yeah.
like, like I say, it costs you nothing to be a nice person. Well, why are you going to be a dick to the next person that doesn't hardly know you? There's no point behind it. And it's just, I see it constantly, and especially the USPA Nationals in Daytona. And my gym blew their lid with all those kids coming in there, leaving weights on the bars and no gym etiquette whatsoever. It's like, what is this costing you to wipe the bar down and put the plates away? Like, be a good person.
So it was the majority of the people in the meet.
Yeah, right. And we got one of those posters right on the door now. It says, "Fuck them kids," because I can't stand it. It really drives me nuts. And the gym owners thank me. They're like, "Thank you."
Yeah. So was this for a meet or just the normal training days?
Well, they were training, you know, how
Yeah.
they do squat, bench, deadlifts constantly, and there was kind of a little bit of both, I believe, because their meet was coming up in a couple days, or I think they had like a 4 or 5 day meet where it was 5 days long, and then the equip day. I get along more with the equip guys in the USAPL than I do anybody else, but yeah, they'd come into town like on Tuesday, then train a couple days, and then do the meet on Friday or Saturday.
Okay, so you're just talking like the higher ranked lifters,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't like
But
if you,
it carries over to the younger ones too.
yeah, I know, but if you're at a meet, say a local meet or any of the meets that you go to, out of all the people that are there, you know, this is just me asking, right? Out of all the people that are there, are they all dickheads or most of them really good people? Just a local meet, just a normal local meet.
Oh, okay. Well, I went to a USPA drug tested meet in October, and it seemed like they were all genuine good kids.
Yeah.
And they all, I mean, one kid that trained at our gym a couple times, he was having trouble with his squats, and I took him in the back, and I'm like, hey, put the bar on your back. keep your shins back, open your ass. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you need to do. And then on his third attempt, he did the same exact thing. And, like, I saw 5 other kids see that, and they came up and, like, nobody else would do that for that guy.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I was like, it's not about me doing it for him. It's about you guys seeing it and doing it for the next kid, too. Because in 10 years, there's going to be a kid like him that needs it. So do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for him and for you and for the next generation. It's I don't want to call myself selfless, but it's what you got to be if you want to get any farther with this community. So, I mean, I think it is more the higher ranked, higher top tier guys in the drug tested and even tested. There's a lot of kids that I don't get along with on the untested side too. So.
Yeah. Well, I think what can happen is, and this is something like we were talking earlier, the same problems that have existed in the sport have been there since I came in the sport in the fucking 80s. They're just reinvented.
Yeah.
You know, there's a different way where, you know, you're because of this, the lifter status that you're in, rank. Status is a bad word. Rank, right? The rank that you're in.
Your dots. Just say it.
Well, no, I don't want to say status because one lifter is not necessarily better than another, and you'll see where I'm going here.
Okay.
Right. So your rank, you know, being higher, you're going to tend to look more and be around those in the top 20 ranking than you are the people that fall outside of the top 20, because those are the people you see in the meets that you're going to, right? Because you're not competing in podunk local meet, right? And so your world vision, your bubble of the sport becomes small, really small, right?
Yeah. When you give it to me like that, I get what you're saying.
And because it's small, you're also more exposed to the political side of the sport as well. Because you see behind, like the Wizard of Oz, right? You see behind the curtain, right? So now you're in this weird spot. You see behind the curtain, and generally the bigger egos are going to make their way to the top, right? So that's what you see. Where the reason I asked, have you gone to like a local meet? And because that's where you're going to be exposed to all the lifters that aren't those lifters.
Yeah.
Right?
I get what you're saying.
Yes, and all those lifters generally are in it for the right reasons. They love the sport. They just want to get stronger. They just found the sport.
Of course.
You know, and they're the ones that, will these other people influence them? Potentially. You know, will you influence them? 100%. You know, but you can't let the vision that you see dilute or change your perception of what the sport is in its whole.
I like that perspective. I really feel like I should probably...
That would be like an NFL player trying to judge all of football on only what happens in the NFL,
Of course.
and disregarding high school, junior varsity, and that's the Heat. He'll get it in a minute. But disregarding all that, right?
Of course.
And some high school games you can go to, and it's fucking awesome, right? Actually, more fun to watch.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right? So that I think can help with the frustration that you have.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's a good way to, kind of just open my mind up a little bit when I think about that. Just like, I do only see those kids that are the more popular, arrogant ones. I don't see I try to go to as many meets as I can, just because I know it means something to the next generation. But then again, going to a meet every weekend. Like,
No, you can't. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do that. But that's what I'm saying. Just the presence that you do put out there now has a bigger impact than what you think. It's just, and granted, this is coming from somebody that's been on the internet since 2000, right? When you're online, your perception of it is, your perception of the whole fucking world and powerlifting is shifted.
Yeah.
Because 90% of what you see, if not more, is criticism and negative.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's so easy to be negative. That's another thing too. Those people that just want to tear somebody down, like for their own self gratification, it's fucking dog shit. I never understood why somebody wants to be that way. It just blows my mind. Like, you have nothing better to do with your day than to tear people down online. Like, get a life.
I know, but and I have a hard time with this too, and I struggle with it, so I'm not going to sit there and bullshit anybody. They're the vocal minority, right? So the majority of the people love what you're doing, love how you're presenting it, you know, and like what's out there, and love the sport. but they got better things to do,
Of course.
than to hit a like button, or write a comment or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Where, it'd be great if they did, but that's just not how the world works.
Of course.
Right. So it's when that's the only, if there's a big problem with the whole online thing, that's what I have is people who are making a difference and, influencing people in the right way never know about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And that's why I've always kind of claimed to where I was like, I've never been good with the internet. It's not that I couldn't jump down that rabbit hole and be a lot better and make a awesome video, reel, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't want to be that involved into it and look down all those different rabbit holes.
I don't think you have to be, though. Your numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, here's Dan Bell, here's what he totals, and then you can't tell me that people aren't like, any fucking heavyweight kid, guaranteed, is like, well, who is he? Right? And then they're going to go listen and they're going to find this podcast and they're going to find other podcasts that you're on. You're like, man, this dude fucking works all the time. He's got his shit together. He's fucked up some things. He takes that's what matters. Yeah. Right? So that has a bigger reach and impact than a reel.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Or a short. No, it's fact.
Yeah, but like you're also opening my mind to it too, to where I gotta think about it with a different perspective instead of sitting in my truck and being that grumpy asshole.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do.
It's easy, man, because you can go down that rabbit hole, and that's, like you said, that's all you see. But as you're seeing that, you got to remember that the person that you're looking at that's pissing you off might be in a full scheme of a meet that has 125 lifters, right. Might be one of 3 people out of the whole meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and everybody else is following the person. While they may have more comments, the majority of the people are like, look at this fucking
asshole. Yeah.
Right? So that's how I like it. It's like, I'll ask myself, what does the silent majority think about this?
Yeah.
It's probably what I am. What a fuckhead.
Yeah.
Right? And then, scroll through.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. A good perspective. Thank you.
Yes. I got a story here. The 2021 Kern with your bench. Somebody fucking swiped your wrist wraps.
Snagged them.
Right? So there's a couple things here that are kind of cool, right? Where Matt's been great to you at Pioneer.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're Pioneer wraps.
Yep.
From what I understand, you didn't want to wear anybody else's wraps except Pioneer wraps.
Of course.
Right? So that's loyalty to Matt, which is
till the day I die.
That's the good thing, man. That's not common.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yes. It's not common. And so you had to borrow John.
I grabbed John's. Yeah.
John Hack's wraps, right? And
he just got done benching 584, I believe, and I was going for a bench PR. It was like 606, and I didn't have any wrist wraps. So I'm like, John, hey, give me your wraps. And I looked at Andy. I was like, this will be good for Iron Rebel.
Yeah. And like 12 inches.
Yeah, they were tiny. Yeah, and softer than hell.
Yeah. And they didn't fit.
No, they were just itty bitty. It was too funny.
Yeah.
Still got the bench.
It's interesting to think about, though, right? Because now we were just talking about people at the top who can be shitty and bad examples.
Right.
Where here's one of your top competitors by formula saying, hey, man, use my wrist wraps.
Yeah. Oh, John and I go back deep.
Yeah.
When he started out in the UPA in Wisconsin, I was going to those meets, and John and I, we went back and forth in raw mate. We went and did that meet together, and we've always gone back and forth. Now we'll talk online every once in a while. Hey, you doing this meet? Hey, you doing this meet? So who wants to go get the money?
Yeah.
Exactly. We've battled it out a couple times with hybrid and pioneer, and then the Kern that year too. That was the first time I ever beat him. So, yeah, he's a great kid, and he means well. Introvert, but. Nothing wrong with that. I get it. I love his attitude. I love his perspective. I love the way he did it. The way he did and went about it with the whole tested IPF winning, then untested, and now just absolutely slaughtering it. That is great for the next generation. I appreciate I tell him that all the time too. I appreciate the hell out of that, the way you did that, because I was on shit before I even started.
It is. I told him the same thing because it's a great story, and it helps because and I'm sure I'll talk about this as this topic keeps coming up over the next few podcasts that are next guest that we have, you know, while people are all bitching about, you know, federations and all this other kind of stuff, there's the other part that people are missing, and that is the lift, and you kind of touched on it, the lifters themselves are influencers in the back of a warm-up room, right? So, you know, I have younger lifters that are out here, right? So I don't necessarily want to send them to a meet where everybody in the warm-up room is going to be saying, hey, dude, you should be on tread, right? So I'm more worried about that than I am, you know, a judge that they may never have any correspondence with at all, right? Because this can fuck their lives real quick.
Of course.
You know, or, you know, hey, you know, whatever recreational drug they're all doing, you know, for whatever that meat as well. Where with John, I can point to him, right, with these kids and say, look, man, I know the temptation's there, but look at this dude.
Yeah.
Look at the trajectory and the path that he used.
Exactly.
If you want to dominate, right, then you want to be able to push this back and push it and wait. And right there, I mean, the path is cut.
Of course. Yeah, I get so many questions about it, and I never suggest any kinds of steroids. Hey, have you reached your potential natural? Like, that's my first, and if you are you training optimally? Are you training smart? And then, like, hey, this is your choice.
Yeah.
And if I want nothing to do with it, go ahead, do your thing. But let me know. Like, if I'm coaching you or whatever, let me know. Like, okay, this is what we got to look forward to. Hopefully it works out. But, yeah, 100%. I'd never try to be that guy. Oh, you do this, up the dose, kid. You know,
most aren't. You know what I'm saying? Most aren't. Most if a younger kid's going to come, or if somebody that's only been in the sport a little bit of time, most I like to think, you know, are going to say, nah, dude, just hold up. You know, just wait, because you only have your first cycle once.
Of course,
right? Just wait. You know, but on the flip side, you know, I've seen so many fucking women come in, and then they don't know the difference between powerlifting without Anavar.
Yeah,
they don't. It's just part of what it's become.
Exactly.
Like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yep.
You know, which is a worrisome thing, right there.
Yeah, that's gotta be rough.
Yeah.
I don't wish that on anybody, getting thrown in like to the lion's den like that. That's I couldn't imagine. I'm pretty happy. I say pretty happy. I like the way a lot of the females are leading that side of powerlifting now, with being completely open with it. They're Bree and Hunter and them. They're open as hell about it and love talking about it and helping the generation. I thank them all the time too, especially Bree. You know, her and I, we butt heads, but that's what best friends do. So yeah, it's really great to see that that's getting thrown out there and being open. That's why, you know, I every time I talk to somebody like along those same lines, like, I want the next generation to do everything I learned from, because I was that same idiot that ran their head through the brick wall so many times, and I wanted what I can pass on and tell to them, so they don't have to be that idiot like I was. Yeah. So, and seeing that's the female side of it, because it was so taboo when I first started. No girls were talking about doing anything like that. And then next thing you know, they're in the bathroom shaving their mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good to see. It's a little breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Let's take a bathroom break real quick. And cue up that ads. Marek Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? You just go to marekhealth.com/table talk, and you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool, because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done, and then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use, over the counter or prescription. marekhealth.com/table talk. The discount code is table talk. Today's episode is brought to you by First Detachment. Are you looking for a supplement brand that truly understands hardworking athletes? Look no further than First Detachment. 1D's real world experience is what I would consider, and they consider, battle tested. I have known Justin Harris for pretty close to 2 decades. And if there's anybody that I trust with nutritional and supplement needs, it's Justin Harris. If you guys have followed me and have followed the podcast, you pretty much already know how I feel about the supplement industry. For me to get behind any brand, I have to trust the brand and I have to trust the person both. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know why. When it comes to creating formulas and putting products on the market, and there's nobody that I trust more than Justin Harris. While I love all of their products, I'd suggest that you check out the Field Rations and WTH first. Go to www.firstdetachment.com and use the code TableTalk10 to save 10% off each order. The link is in the description. Marek Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? You just go to marekhealth.com/table talk, and you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done, and then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use over the counter or prescription. marekhealth.com/table talk. The discount code is table talk. All right, we're back. Okay, question. Another one from the peanut gallery, right? Is ask him how much he's ever squatted in flip-flops or slides.
Yeah, I can't really say. I think 505. Just kind of warming up. But that's just, I do that typically. Usually don't put my Oli shoes on till a little bit later on. I don't like to admit to stuff like this.
Yeah. He used to walk in on Sundays for squat sessions and go straight to warm-ups, sometimes where there was 400 pounds on the bar. In other words, you're not doing anything under 400 pounds, and do a couple reps. I've seen him squat 600 plus in slides because he just didn't care enough to put his sleeves or shoes on.
Oh, it's true. That's true. You know, getting towards the end of prep, like sometimes it's a chore putting them sleeves on.
Oh yeah. Well, his shoes too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'll never admit to that. I think it's been 10 years since I tied my shoes.
All right. So here's a good question for you, and I know it doesn't happen very often because you learn real quick. How many times do you find that you put your shoes on, but you forgot to put the fucking sleeves on? Oh, and then how mad do you get about it?
Pissed, just madder than hell. Oh yeah, yeah. It's happened more than once, and then I'll just go naked knee. Like, yeah. I'm not taking.
Oh, so you're not fucking with it?
No, yeah. Not worth it.
No. I've done it where it's just you sit there and you're like,
fuck.
Yeah. You know, but you're so focused on what you're there to do. That's my excuse,
yeah,
right? My excuse is I'm too focused on what I'm supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, son of a bitch. I mean, lacing the things are a bitch to begin with. So how do you go about doing that?
I don't lace them. No, yeah. Mine's got those two straps on them, and they're usually like, I'll get those like mediocre tight. But I learned years ago from Donnie, no socks. So I just go into them barefooted and Yeah, it's still a chore even getting them on because those heels have been broke down for years. I've only had 2 pair of different squat shoes that I've used. And funny enough, when I first talking about catching my 1,000-pound squats, when I first got into those briefs, I had my Holy shoes on because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Oh, that was rough. That was a rough Sunday. But I went right to flats after that. So it was pretty funny. But getting the shoes on, that's quite the chore. You'll see. Hell, my morning routine of stretches just involves me putting socks on. So that's pretty wicked too. So.
Do you spray the stickum in your shoes?
No, I've been with the humidity in Florida. I don't need to.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I've been lucky enough there.
So you're also not, because I picked up on a couple things here. You're not changing your shoes every training cycle. You're not changing. You've had 2 pair of shoes in the whole time that you've competed.
The December before my first meet, right after I did that push-pull meet, my mom got me my first pair of Romellos for Christmas because I couldn't afford them. I was living on unemployment. And I wore those until 4 years ago. I got the Romello 4s, and those are the same ones I wore. And I don't change them.
Yes.
Why? It's like why fix or try to fix something that's not broke.
I know, but it's interesting, right? Because think of all the lifters that you've seen come through.
Oh yeah.
And then how frequently they think that the next shoe is the world record breaker shoe.
Yeah, brings you back to what Louis said.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
$200 shoes and a 10-cent squat.
Yeah. What other things like that do you see with newer lifters screwing up? Wraps, for instance, are they jumping between different wraps too much?
God, yeah, wraps and sleeves.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong; those enders are great.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to squat, they can help you none. Especially with wraps. Guys with wraps all the time, they just don't know how to use them. I guarantee if they took the wraps off, they'd squat just the same. They don't know how to utilize that spring to where, or even the wrap in itself to where. The whole point of the wrap is to keep your tendons and ligaments in the same exact spot they are when your leg's straight. So if you're already getting wrapped with your knee bent, you're losing art from the jump.
Yeah.
The horses in front of the carriage, they're behind the carriage no matter which way you go. I see it all the time. It's just something, those little things that the kids don't try to pay attention to or soak up on. It's just you pay attention to those little tiny things. And if the socks with the shoes too, even like I was saying with Donnie, that helped me a ton too. My foot doesn't slide at all. I'm stuck inside that shoe. So the little things that just pay attention.
Yeah. How do you cycle your wraps through the training cycle?
Oh, I got 1 pair from the jump. I get a pair and I use those until the meet day. Meet day, I get a brand new pair, and then usually that pair that I wear for the meet go with me for the next cycle.
Yeah.
And then get a brand new pair for meet day. Yeah, usually, I mean, I can tell with those, Pioneer's got the Phantoms. When those are too aggressive, they're cast-like, but they got a little spring, but they're too aggressive for me. And then Matt and Tom Callis came out with another pair. They're a little lighter on the cast, but they give me the perfect spring. So it's just exactly what I found have worked really the best for me.
That's some super old school shit right there, because that's how I used to do it when I was training for meets in high school.
No shit.
Yeah. So
awesome.
you would have, and I would have, because they weren't as good. So I'd have 2 pair, right? The first 8 weeks, the second 8 weeks.
Oh, perfect.
And then a brand new one for the meet.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a third attempt one, if it was needed, right? So there would be 2, for the meet.
Yeah.
If they were sometimes it was wrapped too tight back then. You had one good
break out of
one good hit out of it. Then it was about done. But then the meat ones, the original meat ones, just either got tossed, or the original training ones would get tossed, and then the meat ones become the training ones. Of
course.
And, it just continues through.
Yeah.
Then I get to Westside, we don't wear wraps until meets. So the same pair of wraps lasted a decade.
Of course.
Used fucking 10 times or whatever it was.
Yeah. Hearing what I've always been the type of guy. Well, a little backstory on that. Seeing Grandick and all those guys go to the UPA meets when I was first starting, and then Frankel and all those guys too, really made me pay a lot more attention to the history of it.
Yeah.
And then I went out to Jimmy's place a couple times and trained with him and learned from him and kind of soaked up a lot of his knowledge. Never went to Frankel's place, but every time we got together at the UPA meets or back and forth between the Midwest, we always bullshit and share stories, either whether he was talking about Becca or, you know, the old school training days. All that kind of stuff really helped me carry on to what you were saying earlier with the paying homage to the history of the sport. It was just that kind of little stuff, you know, means something to me.
Yeah.
With those guys and learning from them, you know. When you brought up on the crew cast the other day with the crack and strippers, my first thought was Panora. Like, I was dying laughing, and then I remembered the stories about Dimmel too. So
So it just keeps going, and even before, right?
Yeah.
You know, the guys that were in the warm-up rooms of the meets I was going to were like Pacifico, and then Louie and Steve Wilson and some of these other guys. You know, and, you know, they were help. Even Ed, you know, was helping me in a warm-up room when I was fucking 19, 20 years old. He didn't have to do that.
Of course.
You know, but he did, you know, and that's, I mean, it's kind of, and I think this thing still happen now, but it's just, and I wonder, and I think really hard sometimes, like, were they outliers too? You know, what were the majority of the people assholes then too, but I just didn't pay attention because I wasn't that good, you know, because you got to get to a certain level to where you can see the things that we were talking about,
of course,
behind the curtain and all the other shit.
Right.
Because it's crazy because it's almost like powerlifting innocence. Because until you get to a certain point, man, it's just all it is. It's just the meat.
Yeah.
Like 8 weeks, you know, 12 weeks of the meat. It's just the meat. Go to the meat, hit the meat, break some PRs, have a fucking good time, you know. And then some of that gets a little lost. It's still there, but
being that naive, that would be a beautiful thing. Yeah, man. Just you're opening my mind all kinds of different ways to think about it. So
what is, and I think a lot of it's because we let it in.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing outside of being that naive that's going to make a difference to your own training or total.
Exactly.
Absolutely fucking nothing.
100%. Yeah.
You know, outside of, there's a caveat, outside of you need to communicate with other lifters and know where they're going to compete, especially today.
Yeah.
Right. Before you knew like the APF seniors or the
big meets,
ADFPA or you knew the big meets, there were seniors and there was a world. So you kind of knew.
Of course.
You guys are in a weird spot where you don't really know.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
And the federation's fucking changed too. Like where you're going to go is going to change too.
And yeah. I was that way in like the first 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't leave the monolift. Didn't want to. Scared of the walkout. You know, watching Brandon's stuff. At the beginning of powerlifting, Brandon was kind of one of the idols because he was the bigger name. He was super heavyweight, and I was looking up to it. Then watching what he did at the Fit Expo, that really kept me steered clear away from the walkout. And then Ed was one that kind of talked me into it. He's like, walking out in sleeves is easier than walking out with walking out with wraps is easier than walking out with sleeves. And I'm like, okay. And then I did it. And then I was like, USPA maybe not that bad. And then, of course, everybody's like, oh, if you don't do a UPA meet or USPA meet, it doesn't count. USPA's only have credential judges, and everybody sucked their cock for so many years. And it's like, okay, now look at them, you know.
Well, it's all bullshit. I mean, and that's why, you know, I try hard with the people that I'll communicate with to just get them to ignore all the noise. Because it is. Because at the end of the day, is the all-time world record being recognized?
Right.
People can debate about if it is or isn't, but is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fuck the debate. Is it? Okay, so where is it being recognized? And then just, you go wherever you're going to be pushed to be your best.
Yep, 100%.
Right? So push to be your best by maybe John showing up or somebody's going to push you on formula.
Exactly.
Or where you can have the best, be your best.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's not that hard.
No, 100%. And I feel like that was kind of one of the reasons with the hybrid meet with 2606. It's 3 hours away from home, so I got the travel stress off of me. That was kind of nice. But then I also got the pressure from Mika. Mika was pushing me, and then John was there, so I wanted to keep up with him. Hey, John opened with a deadlift world record, and I watched him do it. He opened with his deadlift world record was like, I think it was like 815 or something like that. And my opener was 815 too. And right when I saw John do that, I went and told him I was like 860. And I took the world record right back from Peter. Then on my opener, I was like, yeah, John can do it. I can do it too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely, you know, where is it recognized and where can you be pushed to the next level of the competition.
Yeah.
That's been tough the last couple of years for me, is finding the push. So I had to break it down into formula and then go with John and stuff like that. But now I feel like there's a couple of kids that'll be coming up and they'll be able to, light a fire into my ass.
Yeah, see, it's. I've always said I have no say on what's going on in the sport now because I'm no longer in it, right? So my voice is muted. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But the one thing, as I'm going to now give an opinion, right? The one thing that fucking has bothered me about all this formula stuff is, first off, like, totals don't matter anymore. That just boggles my brain.
Took the prize out of the total. Yeah.
Well, it took the prize out of the weight classes.
Yeah.
Right. So forget the total. Right. So if you got a pro meet and there's 4 divisions, and let's say that division starts in the 220 class, who the fuck wants to be 220?
Be 275. What?
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So that's going to, over a period of time, that's going to hurt the 220 division big time.
Take it all away.
It's going to hurt it because, and the totals are going to be, and it's all going to be broken down because of that, to where, and I see the side that says we can pay the guys more if there's only 4 divisions, right? But you're not paying really a whole fucking lot, outside of one person, which happens to be you, right? So it's,
oh darn.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it happens to be you, but outside of that, nobody's even making enough money to cover their costs to get there.
No, 100%. Yeah.
And they're trying to like create rivalries, but you create one rivalry. Maybe you and John, maybe one other person. One rivalry for whoever's going to win this division. Where there used to be, you could go to a fucking senior nationals, and these guys are fighting for the super spot. This guy's fighting for the 75s. Granted, the meets are boring as fuck. We'll all admit that. But the only time it's not boring would be like on the deadlifts when shit's close and people are, jockeying for positions. But you could see that in every weight class.
Yeah.
And then that became something that this is actually interesting to watch. So they actually took out the part that's the most interesting to watch.
Exactly.
Reduced it to just one, which is based upon a formula nobody can fucking understand.
Yeah, or make sense of it. Yep.
Now, think about that for a minute. If the lifters can't make sense of it.
You got to get a special app to have the calculator to figure out what you're at. Because, like, even with Glossenbrenners, like,
Yes.
you have, that goes off your weight, and then you get a certain number, and then you got to divide it. It's like, none of us in this sport are that intelligent, like, to even go through that whole process.
No,
like,
but if the lifters can't fucking figure it out, but they're doing it to make the sport more popular, you think the fucking audience can figure this out? They're like, right? So say you're competing, like, and John's a great fucking lifter. I'll never take anything against him. He's fucking going to go down as one of the greatest of all fucking time,
definitely.
right? But as a spectator that doesn't know any different, if you're competing with him, they're like, you lifted more weight.
Why don't you win?
How the fuck the little dude beat this guy?
Yes, exactly. You squatted 500 pounds more than him, and he still won? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, by point. So let's just say this just happens to be on ABC Sports. Explain that one.
No kidding. Yeah.
So it's just this fucked up thing that I never really understood.
100%.
But I guess the way they're trying to balance it is they can give the best squat, the biggest squat.
That's
the
what
biggest
a lot.
stretch.
Yeah, I've noticed that. That's what a lot of directors are doing that now. It's where they're coming to me with the meet and want to do. Hey, we do this. We're gonna this much money for this for dots, but then we're gonna give this much money for biggest squat, bench, and deadlift. And it's like, okay, now you're making it worth it because I got a chance at this, but I'm guaranteed to walk away with this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you got to take the hindsight. When I started, there wasn't money. Mm-hmm. In like these last 4 years, I've kind of made it about, okay, I got the world records, and then that's great and everything like that. But the last 2, it's just been like, okay, where can I go make the most cash? This is a hobby. Let's make it a little bit more lucrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so what I would put out there to those powers that be in powerlifting is that what they want the lifters to think.
Right. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
right? And I totally get it, and I'd be the same fucking way.
Yeah.
But is that what they want?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So, now, if that's not what they want, but that's the impact of the decisions that they're making, then maybe they need to think a little bit harder.
Rethink over that.
of what their marketing plan is, what the branding is.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. And you look at like the American Pro. Yeah, they didn't hand out tons of cash, but they had a great production, awesome meat. I know they're just trying to make it better and better every year. Mika's got great intentions for it, but sometimes a little bit too much they get overthought, and then the judging gets overlooked, and then the internet has something to say. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation.
Yeah. But the internet has something to say about
Everything.
Wait till the Super Bowl's over and go online. Right?
Oh yeah.
So
I purposely have my flight Sunday night, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to watch the bullshit. I'll just see the last 10 minutes what I want to see, anyways.
Exactly.
That's too good.
With the groups that you've trained with over the years, what's the one that stands out the most?
It's kind of they're all pretty even. I mean, with Perfect Storm now, we had the higher level guys, and there was always higher level people coming to train with us. So that's got to be great. I did 2 years at XPF with 242er that got stellar under mediocre numbers. And those are some of the best training days I had as far as remembering wise, because you had to do it all yourself. It was on your shoulders. It wasn't somebody else screaming in your face, getting under you. And then the E&G days where we started in a garage and just being able to grow powerlifting myself, but then that gym together. It's my best friend that owns the place. So I had some more, I guess, input into that growth. My hands were in the wash with it. That meant a lot to me too. And to see where he's at now, running his own meets, running his own professional strongman shows, just having my hands in, watching my best friends flourish to where he was a guy working in a psych ward for minimum wage, didn't know where his life was going to go, dropping out of college to having a basement garage, and now he's hand over fist in the thick of it, doing the best thing for the sport and for his passion. That's pretty fucking satisfying to me as a person. That's just who I am. Like I said, with Perfect Storm, you're not going to find that. That gym, those guys, the owners, they fucking love powerlifting. They'll do. But Gary, don't put up with no bullshit either. So you come in there trying to do anything that he doesn't like, get the fuck out of here. You know, like, he keeps it pretty seclusive, which that's another thing a lot of guys can appreciate too. So they got good trainers in there that care about their clients, and that means something too. So just the crowd that we got, it's a lot of, I never really thought that the training crew would make that huge difference, because I was bouncing back and forth so frequently. I couldn't ask for a better training crew than what I got now.
What do you think creates that, and what do you think keeps that?
The creating it is not having yes men, or I guess you could say people that just want to suck your dick for a tag on Instagram. You know, like they're gonna drink a beer with you later and tell you what you should do or what you should know better by now. Those people that'll give it to you bluntly, but they're also gonna, tell you that your mom's fat too. They joke around and we're gonna have a good time, but we're also gonna be bluntly honest with you. And what keeps it is the camaraderie, to where we might not see eye to eye outside this gym, and we might not live the same exact lifestyles, but in the gym, I'm gonna make you the best person you can be. And that's what keeps it, I think, because a lot of people might not see that side of that person, to where, like, oh, I don't like him because he does this. But in the gym, he makes me a better person, so fuck off. That's what matters to me. And even if it's not in the gym, I can see what he's doing outside the gym, and then I'm going to try to flourish off of that. So it's just, that's the type of person I am, too. So I think that's what keeps it. Everybody's winning. I think that's a big thing in the gym and out of the gym. If everybody's winning, then you're just going to keep moving forward, and that's what it needs to be.
With anything like that, there's always those that come in that don't last, and then so earlier said it was ego, was a big reason why they don't last. What were some of the other reasons?
I just need the spotlight.
Yeah.
That and then
You think they're going to find that though? I mean, if with the lifters that you have in there now, what spotlight do they think they're going to find?
right. Yeah, I don't think they'll find it, but they'll go to the commercial gym and everybody will suck their dick because, oh, this is the best thing. They're the heaviest person in it. I don't know. Or they'll just be humbled.
Yeah.
And that's probably what it's going to take for them to get to be a decent training partner. You got guys that come in there all the time and they aren't fitting in our groove to where you're loading the plates for the next guy, or you're asking what they need, or you're putting their rack height. Me and I used to joke around all the time, like real friends, no real friends rack height. We'd always go, she was a 19 and I was a 27. Like that's just the way it goes. And but like you find those people that will like expect you to load the plates for them and shit like that, and eventually you just kind of give up on it. It's like, hey, you load your own fucking plates.
The videos you're squatting where she's running the monolift always made me laugh because she's so stretched out. It makes it look like she's getting ready to dunk a basketball, you know?
Or like when she does slam the rack, both hands go up.
Yeah. It's like her feet come off the ground. Like she needs a booster or something. Funnier and shit. Is Joe in there much?
Oh yeah. Joe's quite the character. Yeah, I give Joe a lot of credit. That guy does not give up.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad he's actually just recently went with Danny as far as programming and training. I think that's going to help him a lot because Danny gets real deep into the muscle structure, muscle movement type things. That's what he does. So I mean, that's what Danny's very well known of. He's on the same lines of Trevor. So if you want an intelligent conversation, that's the guy to go with, not me. When it comes to that kind of stuff, Danny saved my life a couple times in meet day. But Joe...
No, you can't just say that. So how so?
25-18 after squats, I couldn't get my tendonitis to go away. I was in tears in the back room, and him and his girlfriend at the time released all my upper chest, and I was like a brand new person. Then with my piriformis not releasing, that has a lot to do with me driving. Danny's fixed me and taught me how to take care of that a lot more. Even as far as he lived with a chiropractor, Dylan, there for a little while too, and they would always go back and forth. I'd say button heads, but using each other to bounce things off of. And Danny would tell me how to drive.
Yeah.
With my feet spread out, so I kept my glutes in a different angle and stuff like that. So like I said, Danny, it slowed me down, even little stuff like that. Just those cues that I've got off him, life saving.
Yeah. So let's give him a proper shout out. So what's his full name?
Daniel Tinajero.
Yeah, and he is on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm actually scheduling him right now to be able to get on the podcast at some point in time.
Cool.
So
good.
That'd be a good. So getting back to Joe.
Joe Jordan. Oh man, he's since he moved back over to Ormond, the Daytona area. He was in CTX for a long time, so we passed by every once in a while. And I knew him down there. It's just the OG, the guy that never quits. Just gonna do it with broken parts one way or another. It's good to see his determination. It's good to see that he doesn't want to give up when everything's against him. It's really. And he's always learned. He just did a first raw meet in 20 years a couple months ago. It's that little stuff like that, just where there's still some good guys in the sport trying everything he can to keep pushing those numbers.
Well, that's setting his ego aside too.
100%.
You know, and that's going to help his multiply.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. There was a meet in Fort Lauderdale. It was actually the day that Peter took my world record. So December 2 or 3 years ago, he second attempt. He really wanted 10:36 as his third attempt, and his second was 10:03. And he's like, "It didn't go. It didn't feel as good as it did." And I was like, "Joe, just cut it in half. You wanted 10:36. You got 10:03. Go 10:19." End up smoking it. It was great. He still thanks me today about that. So it's just getting everybody's minds together and making a better outcome. Joe's a good dude.
Now, it wasn't that long ago you started working with some people online.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I've always stayed away from coaching.
Yeah.
It was never really my thing. I don't say I stayed away from it publicly. I've always programmed David Raymond because I've known him for 6 years. He's a 165er out of Iowa. He's a great kid. I've always programmed him. I've always gave him Devontae. I've always done his programming to another kid out of Iowa. It's super strong. I never had a problem with that because we were friends. And then I felt like it was time for me to kind of break into opening my coaching to another person. Now, you can be the strongest person in the world and still be a horrible coach. And that was a big slap in the face when I first started this coaching, which would have been just over a year ago now. And a lot of people got a lot of fucking piss poor excuses. So, yeah. And in my mind, I have to, because my first response is, well, man the fuck up. But I know that that's not going to be taken very well. So it's been a rocky little road with different people I'm not directly in contact with constantly to where we're on a friendship level, I guess you could say. It's more of a coaching aspect. So.
Well, I'm going to assume that you have a vetting process because you don't have a whole lot of fucking time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kept myself out of 5, and I've kept it in between 3 and 5 over the last year, just because I don't want people to pay me. It's more on me with that number because I don't want to be paid for something that I can't give you my full attention and feel like you're getting something out of it. That's just me as a person. I have a little pride, I guess you can say, to where if you're like, oh, here's your cookie cutter program, now piss off and I'll talk to you in 3 weeks or something. You know, that's irritating when I see coaches doing that kind of stuff to me, just being where I'm at. So that's why I was like, 5 tops, let's just cut it there. Tom Callis actually put it together. He does all the vetting stuff and all that stuff, and it worked out perfect. Tom, he's like, he'll text me, hey, got a client coming Monday, here's their background, here's their outlook, here's what they want to do, and it's great. The process they have is fantastic. That's Be Better. His company used to be Smart Strength, but now it's Be Better, and yeah, he really taken off with the coaching. Him and Jacob Ross, they've really taken off and thrown. I feel like they've thrown like a lot forward, kind of what Hybrid did. You know how they took it, but with Hybrid it was a little more template type stuff. With Tom and Jacob, it's more one-on-one, program specific. So it's been really good, and I was glad because I could still bounce ideas off of those guys where it feels like I'm still kind of learning. Yeah.
What outside of people making a lot of shitty ass excuses, you know, what are some of the other things that you've learned? Because a lot of dynamics are removed when it's online. We all assume that. Right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
But there's other dynamics that will expose themselves, where it's a different demographic than what you're going to see training with you in the gym.
Yeah.
Right. While they're still lifters, you can't fine-tune little things here and there.
Of course.
So you got to go more macro, I assume, more bigger level things.
Yeah, to an extent. And then I've also, another thing is to where if their technique isn't like to a T or where I want it at, having somebody else take weight off. Like if we're working up right around the 50% range, telling somebody, hey, we need to cut it to 25% and get your technique dialed in more, that's really hard for them to swallow. I actually had a kid a couple months ago who was like, well, I think I need to find a different coach. I'm like, that's fine. Okay, go waste somebody else's time then. They can't accept like the weight issue. Like, I'm getting strong as hell, I love this, is great. I was like, okay, but let's cut your weight down and really hammer in that technique to where it's actually just a normal body pattern instead of something you're forcing yourself to do. And having people accept that, it's been pretty daunting over the last couple of months. Yeah.
When with your onboarding process, how long are they committed for when they sign up?
Oh, it's month to month.
So it's month to month.
Yeah. But normally, like, when they do the vetting type stuff, they'll put in there, hey, I want to do 6 weeks of off-season prep and then a 12-week peak. My meet is this day, so I get their meet day and just kind of go from there. So where we got, like, say we got 2 4-week blocks and then we got a 12-week peak. Or if they're not really that high level will have like a mini 4-week peak, a deload, and then the 12-week peak, just to get their body kind of in tune to where it is. I'm more linear, of course. I'm fully aware. So I've been around the block a couple times with the conjugate. Nothing against it, just not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's also what it's what you've come up with. It's what you've used. It's what you've mastered, right?
Yep.
So it's the. I keep repeating myself, but everybody needs to learn how to regulate their own training.
Exactly.
There's many different block styles that you can be able to run with that, but once you figure out that base and you master it, it's whatever you put out on paper, for 12 weeks, the base will be the same, but the application of what you actually do is going to be nothing close to what you put on that paper when
100%.
it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's what you're trying to do with these clients that you're talking about, but it's really fucking hard, right? When they're only committed really for a month.
Right. No.
Where because techniques it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's fucking the most important thing, right?
I will even say that was one of the things that I had. It was hard for me to deal with too.
Yeah.
Because I was when I first started, I was squatting around 700 and benching 450 and deadlifting 750, but I was like, everybody's telling me my technique shit, and I'm like, well, I don't care. I'm close to squatting 800, so I get it, but then trying to get somebody else to get it, it's a whole nother story.
No, it's tough. And if the technique is fucked up, I strongly believe that if they took 3 months and never squatted over 60%, but just worked technique, they'd break a PR after the 3 months.
Guaranteed.
Right?
Yes.
And by a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it just in seminars that you fix somebody's technique, or you might have a visitor come down, right? So you guys have a visitor come down, and you're all kind of working with their squat.
Of course.
Next thing they're breaking a PR by 100 pounds. They're like, what the fuck? And in your mind, you didn't get 100 pounds stronger.
No, you got better at executing.
Yeah, we just showed you how to execute it in a way that fits your structure, and holy shit. But it amazes me the number of people that won't buy into that. So it's like, okay, you want to just keep your technique subpar, and because getting stronger is hard.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to keep it subpar and just like get stronger by 30 pounds in that year, rather than fix it and put 100 pounds on
easily
in 3 months.
Exactly.
But they don't get it, And so that comes down to, what are you training for? Are you training for a total, or are you training for your ego?
Ego, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because if you're training for your ego, we can do all kinds of different shit.
Go load that leg press.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where conjugate would be great. Let's do max effort shit. Just max out on stuff and make it a different thing all the time, so you never not PR.
Oh, that'd be great.
So that kind of plays into that. What other things have you seen outside of that, though?
Yeah, it's got to be like the different aspects of training with, like, I know as women, they're a lot more tougher in the weight room than men. Most of the newer men now. Like, if you tell them to do something or show them a way to execute something, they'll put their head to it and they'll actually do stuff outside of it. I've only had like 3 or 4 women clients, but they're way more bullheaded and willing to accept the different style than most of the men are, which really kind of surprised me. Mm-hmm. I've had a few different, like, other women where, like Brittany Demmer, she was one of my friends that I coached for a long time too. And I got her to do chair deadlifts, and like I caught her more than once doing chair lifts off program because she's like, I got to get this down. It's like, okay, I wish I had dudes that would do that. That was one of the kind of surprising things to me, to where you would think that women would be more of a head case, where it's more the men are more head cases than women. So
why did you throw those in for her?
Oh, she wasn't sitting back enough, and the lower back rounding from the initiative. And it was kind of just something where her starting point was her hamstrings weren't fully engaged with it. So I was just like, hey, get a chair, start at 135, and hammer that technique in. And she went from like 440 to 501 overnight.
Yeah. How do you teach the chair deadlift?
Well,
if we were to explain that to people that can't see it, right? How would you explain that?
Oh, just put the bar on your shins and then grab it where you're comfortable, and the minute your glute touches the chair, stand up.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really kind of a layman term I put to that. It just, but the more you get your glute down, the more. But then you also have to worry about, the chest cave and the shoulders not being tight. As we were talking earlier with Trevor with the verbiage, like, put your shoulder blades in your back pocket or squeeze your spine. There's so many different things with that. With another big thing that I took from Ed was your chest is always going to follow your chin. So I understand the neutral spine with that whole thing. But if you keep that chin on a slow rise, that chest is going to be up there. So teaching all that on top of it, it can be kind of daunting.
No, online it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Online it's a long process.
Yeah.
Right, where that's the one thing that I've picked up having people out on the podcast, that this is what they do for a living,
Right.
all the time, is it just takes 5 times longer.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get that. That would suck. But, I mean, what are you going to do? You're restricted by what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the good things that I got with David and Brittany. Like, I trained with them for a little while prior to just coaching them online before I moved and whatnot. So I did get the hands-on look at it, too. And then, like, for their meets, I'll usually go just because they're good friends and they're competing somewhere, like in Iowa.
Yeah.
I go sleep on my best friend's couch, stuff like that. Yeah. So that's another thing now with my online clients that might be a little bit more deterring. The guy Jeff I got now, he's talking about, having me come out for the meet and whatnot, because the meet he just did before, I was literally on my phone, like waiting for the video, just trying to get an idea where we should go for the next attempt. It's just difficult with trying to do all that online.
Oh, I bet.
At a meet, I can watch it first in real time and be like, hey, you got 5 kilos. Hey, you got 10 kilos. It's a lot easier that way. So, takes the time and almost the fun out of it.
Yeah, with your own training, if it's not going where it needs to go, who do you call? Or is that being worked out with the guys that you train with?
Little of both, but if I'm in a bad spot, I'll shoot the video to Ed.
Yeah.
He's always my first go-to. Ed's been a great friend over the years, and he's really helped me a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, if not him, or if he says something, I can go to Trevor, too. Trevor's helped me out quite a bit. That's a great guy to have in your back pocket. I've been blessed with a lot of people that were willing to help.
When did you first meet Ed?
Well, he was friends with Jay and Boss. They were my sponsor. They were my main sponsor for a long time until COVID kind of kicked them in the dick, and that's when I went to Live Large. But he was friends with them, so I want to say 15, 16,
all right,
around there. Yeah, and he knew of me, and he always said, hey, you're going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least somebody believes in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he actually fixed my squat, got me to open up a lot more, really bounce into my hamstring and calves. And then
how so? What did he say? I mean, how did you know? First off, how did you know you needed to do it? And then what did he say?
I had a real tough time with my shins going over my toes. It's like I've heard you say it before, where you see 300-pound guys and they look like they're hitting death, but they're not when they're assholes on the ground. And I had a real problem time. That's one of the biggest things I took over from Multiply, was being able to control my shins a lot. Like, that was the best thing I got out of that whole experience. And Ed was the one that made me open back first, and then
explain open.
Hips break, knees still in line with toes, and then mid hip is where my knees open harder and travel forward. So it's kind of like a geared squat, but my feet are a lot closer, and that's why I throw my knees out as hard as I can while still controlling that shift. That's where Ed held me accountable, and then I just I remember 705. I would, every chance I got, I would squat 705 and just hammer that open the asshole, sit back, and then clearly it paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the number that I would just sit at. And I did it for like 4 or 5 months, just dead nuts, just every chance I got. 705 as many times as I can to make it perfect. That's what I did. And then he helped, like I said, with the bench earlier. He's like, you work on your upper chest. That took off. And then, like, with my deadlifts, he's like, move your hands out 1/4 of an inch. Your lockout's going to be faster. Not saying that helped, as we talked earlier.
Yeah.
It needed it faster, but yeah, just those little things I can always count on. If I feel like something's off, shoot him a video.
How do you work on the mobility to be able to get to the deadlift, to get to the bar? Because that cannot be easy.
It's not as horrible, but I do have a problem with my knees running into my elbows. And yeah, I've had to start rolling again, which I got away from the rolling, but I feel like the rolling all has to do with timing. And
Yeah.
if you can get that down, it's going to be perfect. Yeah, it's just putting 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound sack. You know, that's more or less what that is. And then holding on to it, because with that kind of velocity coming out is where I tear my hands.
Yeah.
Real good, real easy.
Well, the rolling brings up an interesting thing, because that becomes an issue, a debate, right? Where sometimes I don't think you can even be involved in that debate unless you've ever been big enough that you have that problem.
Exactly.
You know, because sometimes there's really no other way. I don't give a fuck what anybody
Exactly.
says. You know, but for you, going back to it, how do you gauge the timing of it for other supers that are trying to figure this out?
I just try to imagine ripping my kneecaps off of the bar. So when I feel that in line to where my knees are perfectly set, and I can't see because I'm normally looking dead forward or as up as I can, to where it feels like the bar's close enough to rip my kneecaps off, and then just launch. Is kind of where I tried. Like, for me, it would be kind of your forearms hitting the front part of your kneecap, I guess you could say. And it takes time and patience, because if you get it wrong and it's too far out in front of you,
You're fucked.
good luck.
Yeah.
Or if it's too close, then you also have that issue of falling back on your ass too. So it's just damn near hit or miss. And I took a lot of it. I watched the shit out of, like the guy from Chicago. He did it all the time. The guy that owned Barbell Central, he would roll it. And then even JP Price or JP Carroll too, they both rolled it when they deadlift. I watched all those, just trying to get it all down. It's all about how much time and effort you got to put into it when you don't give yourself a choice. So,
yeah, exactly. And I've heard you say, I think it was in the 2005-ish range, had you continued that same path, you think you would be dead or in jail? Yeah. So,
if I wouldn't have found powerlifting in 2013, if I wouldn't have started this, I would definitely, I'd be behind bars or 6 feet under. I guarantee that. I was on a pretty hellish path, 27, making 6 figures a year to my union job. I had zero fucking worries. I had a Harley and a cavern for a nostril.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
That was my lifestyle at that time, and finding powerlifting gave me a good priority to want to do better.
Yes, but with that comes a certain aggressive mentality, I guess. A certain how do you resort not going back to that same mentality, because you have the mentality that you're putting in the training, right? But if you see what I'm saying?
I got arrested last January, Dave. It's
not
all.
So it's not all, right? So for what? For what?
Oh, some dude said the wrong thing to me at a bar about my wife. I wanted to hit him more than once, but it only took once. Yeah. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. You're fucking 400 pounds.
Exactly. And
so somebody's going to walk up to you in a bar? What the fuck? What did this dude say?
I know what it feels like to be inside your wife.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I swear to God.
What did he expect was going to happen?
Not that, I don't think. Yeah. And the worst part about it was when I hit him.
Wait a minute. I got to process this fucking thing here for a minute.
Yeah.
Is he drunk? Like, what
we were like, I had a couple beers in me, and I don't think he wasn't too smashed. Like, but he wasn't blackout drunk, but had a couple in him, and he's known for talking shit.
Yeah.
He was known well throughout the town for being the one that just ran his mouth the wrong time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just one of those guys where there's a certain line. Yeah. It'll take me a lot.
But that's a line. I get
it. Yeah. And even that night, like, I took off. I went straight. I'd been there a couple times. I took off. I went straight down the street, turned my shirt inside out, did the whole thing. And then
because they're not going to know you.
Right.
Like turning your shirt inside out is going to do it.
I didn't think about that too much. Anyways, walked down the street, and then heard one of my friends was like, "Hey, they're going to arrest somebody whether you come back or not. So I just came back. And I walked up to the cop car.
What do you mean arrest somebody if you come back or not? They're going to arrest some fucking innocent person for you punching somebody?
Well, the one lady was like, hey, your wife, this is the guy's wife, blah, blah, blah. Then they started questioning her, giving her the rundown. And when Dylan called me and said that, I just turned around. I was like, hey, this is not worth all the bullshit. I'll just go back. Mm-hmm. And so I walked back up and I walked straight to the cop car. And I took my hat off, put my wallet and everything. Like I said, been there a couple times before.
Yeah.
Took all my stuff off. Gave the one cop my hat. And I'm like, hey, I'm the one you want. Like, here, my debit card's in there, and I got in the car. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't want you to put handcuffs on me. Let's just fucking go.
So how's that? Even going back to 2005, how's that work? How they put the handcuffs on you then?
Oh, they were always doubled.
Okay.
Always, yeah. Or a couple times they tried putting those fucking zip ties on me, and I'm just like, guys, this is a horrible idea. I'm like, I know what I did wrong. I have zero problem for the accountability. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to do this, but these don't work either. Yeah. So it's just, there's a good anger side to me, but I think that.
Well, so you go back, right? So you voluntarily go back, and so what happens next?
Oh, this is the best part of the story. All right, we're sitting at the first cop shop, and the guy's like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I was like, "I'm just a mechanic." I just trying to downplay it as much as I could, and he's like, "No, you're a 400-pound guy. Like, you lift a lot?" And I was like, not too much," and he wouldn't let go. And I was like, "Hey, just Google me." And he's like, what? I was like, put my name in the Google. And he does. And the Force 2606 was the first one to pop up. And he's like, you got to be shitting me. And then he gets 4 other cops around the car. And they're all watching my YouTube video on their little screen going through it like, oh my God, are you? No way. And at that time, one of the guys asked me, he's like, what did that guy say? Like, I told him, and he's like, wow, man, I would hit him too. So it was pretty comical. But then he had the screen up, and we're going out to county. And as we're going, the screen was still up from my YouTube video. It wasn't playing, but it was still up. And I think he looked over, and all of a sudden he smoked 3 deer. Yes, in the cop car. It was a little Impala. I wasn't pissed. I was in the back of it anyways. He gets out, madder than hell. I'm in the car screaming. I'm like, hey, I'm a mechanic. Like, let me look at your car. Like, and he was like hesitant. So he like let me out, got me out. I was like, if you just take these off, I can look at your car and see if it's all right to drive.
Yeah.
And I was like, you aren't leaking anything. It looks like it's all right. And he took the cuffs off me. Then another car showed up and he got scared. So he put the cuffs back on me. Like, all right, man. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad this is an Explorer, not another Impala. You know? We got out to county and it was just one thing after another. They ended up throwing me in the tank because the one cop came up to me and he's like, I need to take your socks off. I took my sock off and I went to hand it to him and he didn't grab it, so I kind of threw it and he threw me against the wall. And as I pushed against the wall, he went flying across the room and they're like, you gotta go, you're locked up. And I was like, oh, here we go, another 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I was like my mother-in-law already had me paid my wife and mother-in-law had me already paid to get out before I was even booked.
Yeah.
It was one of those shit shows, which neither here nor there at all. I did 8 hours of 8-hour anger management class. And
how'd that work? I guess you have to say it works great, right?
Yeah. So I went the kid was following me on Instagram. That was like another one of the worst parts about it. Well, the first worst part was I actually asked my wife if she had sex with the dude, and she's like, "No, of course not." That was hard for me.
Yeah.
And then my wife, she's like, "I can't believe you even asked." I was like, "Well, I didn't know." Shit.
It could have been before you knew it.
Exactly.
You know, right?
And I know whatever. Yeah. So I found out the kid's name. Blah blah blah. Look him up on Instagram. He's actually following me. And I was like, oh, shit. So
he's following you before all this?
Yeah, before it all. So he had to have known, like, who I was and whatever.
Yeah.
So I messaged him, and I was like, hey, no matter what you said, I'm sorry. Like, we're in town, paid him $2,500, got it all dismissed. I did 8 hours of anger management class, and it was completely dropped because I had no priors.
Yeah.
I'm like, perfect.
So you saved $2,500.
Exactly. Exactly. Kid works for the city water department, and 2 weeks after I saw him on the corner of my block working on a water pipe, and I just stopped. I was on the bike, and I just stopped. I looked at him, and he like looked at me, and like waved, and then put his head down and went back to work. I was like, all right, I think this probably did you a favor. I don't think you're going to be running your mouth anymore to anybody at the
No,
bar.
I would not think so. Right. So that's January. So I assume there wasn't like another one in February or April, because this is some funny shit, by the way. I mean, it's probably not funny at the time. I get that.
No.
You know, because
But I thought I had that was right before the Ghost Clash, and I thought I had a fucking boxer's fracture in my wrist. I couldn't bench over 485. It was just shooting pains down my arm. So I dropped out of the meet, and then 3 weeks prior to the meet, I was just deadlift training just to be deadlift, and I pulled like 715 for 5, and I'm like, shit, Alex, let me get in the meet. And I ended up squatting 1074, benching 569, and deadlifting 869 again. So I was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But yeah, but still, I paid for my lawyer. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing you don't think about is, you know, your hands get all fucked up, something like that. I used to work in a bar, and I'd throw people out sometimes. It would get physical. And I remember one time, afterwards, I'm standing there, I'm like, I can't move my fucking arms. Both my bicepial tendons are fucked up. My neck's all fucked up. And I'm like, what's this going to do to my bench? Like, it's like, fuck, you know, and then it went away like an hour later. But it's at the same time, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to deal with this bullshit anymore. I'll just use the fucking, taser and knock them the fuck out and not have my bench get all fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
That for Hoff's meet, it was IPA meet in Columbus. My first 2,200 total. The weekend before, I did an arm wrestling competition at a local bar. Horrible idea.
Yeah.
I thought I ripped my bicep completely off. I ended up winning, but then I was warming up for a bench, and I'm in tears. I couldn't even, barely move my arm. Found out I tore my bicep tendon the week before. So, yeah, I get it. And it was some dumb bar move. I think I won $200, but still, it's like, why the hell am I doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was more worried about the total, but still, I was trying to party too.
What's the worst injury that you've had to overcome?
IT, man.
Okay. And how that happened?
Squatting. I was just throwing my knees out too hard and not being into my glute and hamstrings a little bit more.
Did you feel a pop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Real hard. And then that took almost 6 months to feel comfortable. It was more mental. I was just scared.
Yeah.
Because I would always feel like it was tighter, but then just hitting the hole, I was always scared to kind of let loose in the bottom and spring up. It was just more mental, I guess you could say.
So what's the first week after? So you tear it, then what's the next week look like?
Oh, blood work. That was all. I was doing anything, and I glute bridges, just anything I can to just try to force as much blood in there as I could.
Yeah. When did you start trying to squat?
It
Just
was
body weight or box?
4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yeah, 4 weeks. I gave that enough time off, and then after the MRI, we saw that it was tore, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm fucked. It was a tough mental battle there, but then it was 4 weeks. I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking do it one way or another. And I think I hit 315. I was like, that's enough. That's all I needed. Just move on. Next week I'll do 405.
Yeah.
And I think I moved up even slower than that. It was 315, 355. I just kept slowly trying to progress. I had a couple setbacks where I was like, this hurts too much. I won't do it. Yeah, that's kind of one thing that I've always kind of been pretty good with the auto regulation. So where if something's not right, I'm not going to push it too far or too hard. Something feels off muscle-wise, or I can tell where I'm just kind of being a pussy or something's too tight. I can know the difference there. But if something's not feeling perfect, I try not to press it too much to where shut it down and go hit the leg press or something else to stimulate that same muscle group. That's something I've always been kind of decent with.
How long did it take until it wasn't even a thought?
Ooh, yeah, it was a good 5 years. It took just running through one brick wall after another to where it's like, this is getting you nowhere. Let's try to work around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's important, and I respect your honesty on that, because when something pops like that, it's a big thing. People can come back and they can compete earlier, but there's still that little mind fuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's at the start of it, and you're like, fuck, and then it's just like, fuck it, and you just go.
Yeah.
But there becomes a time where that no longer exists.
Yep.
And that's a long time.
Oh yeah, big time. It's always a thought. Even now.
Yeah.
There isn't a time I get under the bar. It's like, this could go wrong, but can't think that way. Let's fucking hit it.
Yeah. But not the IT band.
Right. Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that, so people will see that, because they'll ask about how do you come back from injuries. Well, there's the physical part, but if it's something that you got hurt doing the lift, and then there's a pop, it's that mental part's probably 3 times as long.
Worse, yeah.
Right. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you gotta
Yeah,
deal with it.
100%.
Right. Where I think that actually, in a fucked up way, it helps your training overall, because you're forced to have to negotiate.
Of course.
Right. So you are, though, before each lift, it's like, is this worth it? Is this necessary?
Yeah.
All right. Then when you pick it, you're like, just for that split second, like, fuck. Then you got to decide.
Either it's go time or it's
do
not.
we go or we don't.
Yeah.
But before that, there isn't that.
Yep.
It's just fucking go. Right. But sometimes you go when you shouldn't. Sometimes you need to wait, especially for you. That bar's got to settle.
Oh.
So sometimes you got to wait a little longer.
Yeah.
So maybe that taught you how to wait longer.
Yeah, I believe so. That, and then the Texas bar, that was real. The Cage 2016, 800 planted me on my ass, and it was Chad and Brandon. No, it was 15. Yeah, Chad, Wesley Smith, and Brandon. They were like, "Calm down." And I was nervous as shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like first couple years into powerlifting, and the Cage was totally a bucket list. I got asked the night before because a couple flights got delayed. I was so fucking ecstatic, but then I got in there and rushed it. And it's just, Brandon's like, "Pull that bar into you, relax, slow down." And then Casey Williams, he would always like say to his, like, put it on a story or whatever about his like lifters or clients or whatever, be like, "Watch how he does it. This is perfect. He slows down, waits for the bar to settle." I'm like, now it's at that point where I don't even know I'm doing that, but I'm glad I can portray that.
No, it's huge, though. It's a big thing, especially with some of the bars are better.
Yeah.
But heavier weights, man, it's
Don't matter.
Fuck. When Blaine was talking, he was on about it oscillating. I'm like, fuck, I never thought about it, but with a fucking regular
Those
power bar, it's
45-pound
gonna
bars?
fucking oscillate.
No thanks.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
It's
couldn't imagine with a 45-pound bar. I have a hard enough time with a 55, and I'll train with a Mastodon or the Sportscraft as much as I can because our gym's got them. But if I know if the meet's only using a Texas bar, then I'll just stick with it. And I've had a couple guys like, "Oh, we can use this bar; it's bigger," and I'm just like, "Yeah, but this is what the meat's doing, so let's."
For you, it's got to be a big difference, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, big time. Like, when the first time was Big Dogs 2017 was when they were the Sportscraft bar, and Eric had told me about it before. That thing has zero give. That thing is pretty vicious to squat on. And at that time I was training in Kewanee in Illinois, and we just had a regular Texas bar. I didn't have any choice. There's a couple times where I went up to Barbell Central and like checked out their bar and like got to work with it a little bit, but I didn't get any time under it. But now it's just like you gotta kind of find out what the meat's using and stick with that, because if you don't, that whip can crush you. I've got it so decent. Josh Morris actually is the one that taught me how to use the whip on bench, to where you can actually get a good whip on bench if the pause is right.
How so?
On your, like, when you break your elbows and you're right about here, and of course I'm not a big sinker, and I know a lot of guys that are, but if you kind of let loose in the bottom, and they'll cause the pause when it stops, that weight will be on the upswing. So then your transition's a lot easier. That's where Josh, like, everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's benching 630," and he's like, "Hey, watch this whip," and then you slow the video down, and you just watch it as you sink in your chest. But coming up with the UPA, Carpenter, and WT Franklin, they never really let me sink into the chest, which different. I mean, you know that.
No, it's different. Yeah.
Age-long debate. So that's where, like, it was tough for me to try to figure that out, the timing.
No, but as a lifter, the longer that you're in it, you got to figure all these things out.
You ain't
'cause
cheating,
they
you
all
ain't
fucking
trying.
matter. Yeah, they all matter, right? It's a big difference.
100%.
What are some of the obstacles you've had to overcome with the bench?
No, I've been pretty steady on hating it.
Yeah. Well, there's the first obstacle.
That's always been the one that I lacked. And then I never made it a priority until, like, when my squat was getting closer to 1,000 was when I was like, hey, if I focus a little bit more on my bench, then make that a priority. My squat will be around the same. That'll get the total that I want. Mm-hmm. And that's when, like, it's kind of, one weekend I did a meet in Kentucky, and it was the last time I ever cut to 308. I cut like 41 pounds. And my dad actually force-fed me Powerade because I passed out at work, and we left the next morning to go to weigh-ins. And I totaled 2,200, only got my openers. JP Carroll beat me, and Brandon Franklin beat me. I was pissed, mad as shit. Very next weekend, I hit like a 495 bench there. Very next weekend, I went to UPA meet in Iowa because I was still mad as shit. And didn't cut, didn't do anything. Ate my ass off all week and slept. And I hit like 2303. And I benched like 524. And I'm like, body weight matters for bench. That was one of the things I was like, okay, this is where I need to go. And then that was along the same time that Ed started telling me with the upper chest, get your shoulder carry over. You got to hammer out your triceps. And then with the multiply, single ply that I used, that was when I was like, yeah, your triceps got to be wicked to do this. So that's like, okay, stronger your triceps are going to be, better you are. Because I've always had like a narrower grip. My ring fingers on the knurl, but those have been the two things that I don't say obstacles, but two things that I've noticed help a lot with my bench. Yeah, just trying to improve on it. Tendonitis is always going to happen with a straight bar, so working through it's not. It's going to be a chore, but always going to happen.
Well, at the same time, it's very rare that all three lifts are moving at the same time.
Oh yeah, my bench never peaks like my bench or my squat and deadlift do. My deadlift, I can peak my deadlift in 5 weeks, no problem. My squat usually takes around 10. My bench, it's like 15 to 16. To where now I've kind of, this will be my first cycle that I've done this, put a little bit more upper chest into the end of my close grip days to try to get to peak a little faster. Just trial and error type deal.
How are you doing that? What do you mean?
Just incline benching on top of it. Before I would only keep my incline on the off season. Now I threw it in with my peak with my close grip to where I can get that activation a little bit more. Hopefully it peaks. Try to get to peak a little faster.
So when you say throw that in there, how's that gonna? Is it gonna cycle as Ed Combs would cycle it throughout the whole training phase?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's gonna start higher reps and then peak the same way all the other lifts do.
100%. I always want my like we were saying earlier with the weeks back and forth. My close grip. I want my opener to be my last close grip. 7 to 10 days out from a meet. My close grip will be my opener, and that'll be the last bench I hit before the meet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's because you always, like, even with the drugs, you peak it all. Mm-hmm. If you're peaking one thing, you might as well do all of them.
Oh, yeah. So you're peaking those main accessories.
Yeah. And even with my back and bicep day, like, the last 2 weeks, I'll cut because normally it's 10 sets, I'll go to 5 sets. A little heavier because I can. I'm stronger than fuck right then.
Yeah.
So, So, I know that's a good time to do it. So why not?
Yeah. Years ago, I wrote this article, and this is going to be funny. Hopefully, it'll be interesting because you've been heavy your whole fucking life. It was like 27 reasons why you should be fucking big, right? So I'm just going to list some of these things here. We'll talk about them. Right. This is when I was 308 trying to. I was 290. I always had a hard time being 308. Yeah. So just trying to force it, and then finally broke through that. But so you got to keep your mind frame in when you're trying to push. Let's say 3 weeks out from a meet. So when you're let's say you're 415, right? So it's not fucking good, right? And so when I wrote this, I was in that kind of stage,
yeah.
right? So it's a humorous type of thing, but all this is fucking true, right? So one of them in there was, I like feeling like I need to take a shit all day.
Constantly. Yes.
Like that's a positive, right? I like the lower back workout I get from just walking across the room.
Man, you're hitting my feels right now.
Yeah. Cell phones are a fucking treat, right? That's because back then we didn't have the
flip
fucking
phone?
Yeah, so you couldn't fucking
T9 word.
Yeah, you had to like fucking plug it in, like you're not holding the phone up to your head.
No.
You know, so it's either a speaker phone or fucking earbuds.
Constantly,
right? I like buying a new recliner every few years because you keep breaking them down.
Quit buying them. I'll just get a sofa every 3 months. I quit buying recliners.
Yeah. Or patio, that big fucking wooden patio recliner. That would probably break down too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So all your furniture is being fucking crushed.
Dude, I've had the same mattress for like 11 months now, and that's the longest I've had a mattress. And I still got a cavern in my side. My wife will roll into me at night.
Really?
Ridiculous. Oh yeah. That's the longest I've had a mattress, and I was pretty surprised with it.
Now you need to find a mattress sponsor.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, fuck the supplements and the other shit. You need a mattress sponsor. I like coming up with excuses to avoid places like the zoo, amusement parks, fairs, and other places that involve a shitload of walking around.
My wife's in Sedona, Arizona right now, walking around the hills and everything out there. I made her take her cousin because I wanted to avoid the walking.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll pay for it. Just go. I take your cousin Laura, please.
This happened a lot. I would leave work and then get in my car and then realize I fucking forgot something. And then sit there mad,
pissed,
fuck, for 20 minutes because I'd have to turn around and walk back, right? I assume that you've experienced that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You go sit in my truck in the driveway and like just be furious because I left like my lunch pack or something in the house, and it's literally 30 foot to the house. It's like, why do I do this to myself? I just blame myself.
Yeah. Yes. Now, will you call your wife to bring it out?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be golden. Hey, babe.
The other one is, and I know this one's happening, where you end up being the passenger in some kind of compact car, right? So you got to squeeze in the motherfucker, right? Which sucks, but it's kind of funny, right? Because you feel bad for the driver, but you don't.
No.
But to make this worse, when they park, the curbside park, and then you're on the passenger side.
You're trying to get out.
Yeah.
You're ass first. You got to go ass first. You can't go head first.
So explain that one to me because I didn't figure that one out.
So I will literally open the door all the way up and then just pivot to the side, put my head over the center console, and just kick my ass out and slowly creep out of the car. That's how I get in it too. Yeah, my wife's got one of those Z4 BMWs, and I can't get in it unless the hoods or the roof's all the way down.
Yeah,
like it's impossible. There's no way.
Yeah. This is probably the best takeaway out of the whole fucking podcast right here.
Yes, that's too funny. We went out to Washington for that meet in September, and gas prices out there are $6 a gallon. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. So I was like, damn, we got to rent a car for a week. What are we gonna do? Usually, like, I always get a truck. Like, it's a little bit more, but I'm pretty good up with the Enterprise, whatever. And we got a hybrid, but it was a Ford Focus or a Ford Taurus, like one of the Taurus, whatever. It's a newer one. It was a hybrid, so it was great on gas. We drove like 1,400 miles in that week and filled it up twice. So it was awesome about that. But at the end of it, I just wanted to flip that car on its lid because that thing was so fucking uncomfortable. Oh, it was bad. The one time I did, when we landed, I only slept a couple hours. We got on the plane 9 hours out there. We landed, I made my wife drive, and I didn't get in the passenger seat. I just got in the back and just kind of laid on her luggage. I was like, I threw that seat all the way forward and just hopped in the back. I was like, I ain't fitting in that little son of a bitch. You drive.
Then there's always the feeling that you think that you're getting more jacked and bigger, and you look more jacked and bigger until you're standing in front of the fucking mirror and, you know, after you get out of the shower and you realize you're still a fat bloated fuck.
Oh, so true. I was doing that 3 hours ago.
When you're taking a shit, you go to wipe and you get the lat cramp.
That's the worst.
First off, just back up. Like, how the fuck do you get back here to wipe?
Well, I'm lucky enough where I can pin my elbow on the wall, and then that forces my arm. But I'm a dude wipes guy. I haven't used toilet paper in years. So, they come to the house from Amazon. So I just package. But I haven't had a horrible problem with that. Now, I will say, with my job, there's quite a few times where I got to go in the field.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and so I've learned quite a few techniques to work around that.
Okay, right. As in?
Just like I said, you know, pin your arm against something.
Like a tree?
Yeah, or a bumper. Yeah, where it forces the hand right under there where you need it to be. Yeah, and then just wipe till the sun don't shine.
Yeah.
It don't matter there. You aren't going to clog any toilets in nature.
All right, so now it's on. So that brings up an interesting question, right? Because now you can either fucking, you know, shit by the truck or go in the porta pot.
No.
What's the choice?
No porta potties. No, when I was working over the road, that's all we had.
Yeah.
And I got horror stories of porta potties. It ain't happening. No, I'll shit in the woods before I do that. Plus, in Florida, those things are 900 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I'm good. No, that's too funny.
The horror story, did it cave in or did you just get...
They tipped it on the backside. So
it tipped?
Yeah. No, the guys I was working with thought it was funny. And we did it to multiple people. I'd just go up and shake the shit out of it.
Yeah.
My boss got in there. But the one time, those two guys were trying to shake it, and I was in there, and I stood up too fast, and the whole thing just... So here... Yeah, yes. That was fucking horrible. We were in the middle of Nebraska, too, just getting done with this big horse barn we were building. And they came up, shook it, and I stood up too fast. Whole thing tips over, and I'm Spider-Man in that thing. And John throws the door open, and I punched him before I even stood up. He threw the door open, and I just clocked him in the side of the face. He's like, "You all right?" And I just smoked him. It was so funny. Then I ended up having to stand in my own shit, and I made my boss take me to the hotel to change. I was like,
that's fucking gross, man.
Like I'm not working all day.
So are you in the back of a pickup while he's taking you?
Yep, that's exactly what happened. We're at 40 miles to the hotel in the middle of the day. Yeah. Oh, I was pissed. But it's a good story for...
Yeah, what's the learning lesson there?
Yeah, never leave the door shut on a porta potty.
Or just don't use the porta potty.
Exactly.
I like feeling like my head is going to explode just bending over to tie my shoes.
So I don't tie them.
You know, so you just... I like the feeling of my belly and my upper thighs when I take a shit. Sometimes it makes me feel like I'm squatting and I need to sit back further. Needing to use a fan in an air-conditioned room.
That was the first thing I did when we moved into our house in Florida. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to Lowe's to buy ceiling fans for every room in this house that don't have it." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I'm 400 pounds." It's like, she's like, "We have air." And I was like, "That doesn't do it." I totally get it.
So I assume you're probably not wearing pants that need belts at all, right?
I mean, yeah, my work pants, I don't wear a belt, but normally when I get on the bike, I will wear jeans. That's a safety thing.
If it is a belt, the belt has to go in the loops before the pants go on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, constantly. Yeah, you ain't doing that. No way.
I didn't. That was one of those things I fucking never even considered until Wendler and I were going to do a seminar somewhere, and you have to go through security, and you had to take and I was always like, oh, fuck, you know, because I hate because now you got to put it back on, right? It's like,
not in the airport, middle of the
fuck, right? Chance. And so we do this, and then after we go through and the belt's off, and Jim's like, we gotta go to the bathroom. So I walk in the bathroom, he drops his pants,
takes them all the way,
takes them off, and then and I look at him like, this is fucking genius. Why did I never think about this? My whole fucking life, I'm like trying to, and you always miss it.
Yeah,
you miss
there's always one that you miss. Yeah,
like
gold.
Oh my god!
I got a link for a plastic belt that goes right through there. I got one.
It's a link.
Yeah, well, I got a website I bought it from. It's the lever's actually plastic.
Yeah,
but it won't go off. So they're always like, "Sir, you take your belt off." I was like, "No, I don't." And I walk through, and they don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's like you just countered the whole thing.
I don't take it off at all. Yeah.
No, that works. I did it.
Yeah.
Waking up in the middle of the night with your hands numb, right? But then it's like, fuck it. It's just my reminder that I need to eat more food.
The end of that's great. Yeah.
This is fucking. This one's even funnier now after hearing your January story. You know, always being asked, do you lift weights, right? And then it'd be like, no, man, I just bale hay and all this kind of shit, right? So you always try to avoid it. And I had a note in here that, have you ever had to hide the fact that you lifted weights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yep. We just fucking covered that one.
Yep.
What other, because those, I thought I had another page of that shit. What are some other ones that, wait. Well, this is a good one because I'm sure you found yourself in this situation with every now and again, you're going to have to sit in a business meeting, right? Of some sort. And you have to try to counter the fact that they're going to look at you like you're a fucking meathead. Right?
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
With my company, I've been blessed enough to where they actually featured it. They made it a popular thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we kind of took the hindsight of it, but before anybody knew, and then we had to go through those meetings. Yeah, I was usually the first one in, so nobody noticed me. Like, I wouldn't walk in and everybody, you know, because somebody walks into a meeting, everybody's looking to see who it is. I usually try to be the first one in, sit all the way to the table, and not bring anything up. But now that everybody knows, I'll just walk like normal. But yeah, totally. You don't want to be the standout. Not to mention everybody's hearing you breathe the whole time. Yeah, 100%. Other ones, yeah, thank God for Amazon. And there's another good thing about COVID. A lot of stuff was closed. Like, I'll avoid going shopping just if I can order it on Amazon just to the walk.
Yeah.
The back pump from Walmart. Oh, wicked back pumps. No thanks. But supplementing a lot more water and stuff like that. There's ways to get around that. But still, being this big's a chore.
See, that's one evolution that's been very beneficial is I just assumed it was part of the game, and so did everybody else, right? Now we all figured out, like you guys have figured out, that's not a good thing. It's actually a bad thing.
Yeah.
And there's ways to counter that, you know, with water, you know, staying hydrated, which is that's probably got to be something that's hard for you, right? Being in the field, being in Florida.
Yes and no. It's second nature now.
Yeah.
Every morning before I leave, I just pack 2 gallons of water. And I know, like, even a lot of times when I get home at night, before I'll even open a beer, I'll make sure I finish that second gallon. So it's kind of a good, there's a win-win to it, you know?
No, I get it.
Yeah, there's a double win to it. Yeah. So.
And then the third gallon is the beer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody talks to me, gives me shit about Coors Light. I'm a quantity guy, not a quality. So
yeah. Well, why light?
Oh, to be perfectly honest with you, high school I was Bud Light, and then about 30s when I first started getting heartburn, and Bud Light would just rock me on heartburn. It's already hard enough with everything else that we do.
Yeah.
And this is the only beer that doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, no problem. I always ran to vodka too, because dark liquor brings out another person that nobody wants to see. It involves handcuffs too. So vodka was another good one too, but you mix that with anything, it's Heartburn City too. So yeah, this is the only one with the heartburn.
So it's by default.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're known for the beer on squat days. So is it also on the other days too?
No, I usually don't drink deadlifts. Yeah, I can get a couple drinks in with the deadlifts, but Not bench. Bars over your face.
Like the bar in your back's not a fucking concern.
Yeah, true. I don't really try to think about it that much. Everybody always give me shit because how much I do drink, like, come meat day. But, like, I've explained it a couple times, too. But just that sound of cracking that can, something about here drops the pressure off. It's like, I'm here to party now. The hard part's over. Let's have fun. So even before my first attempt, I'll look over at my wife. She'll bring me a beer. And I just crack it. And I'm like, let's have fun.
So that sound wouldn't work with a seltzer water?
Not satisfactory, I guess. Seltzer water. You sound like the Massonomics guys. Seltzer water. Get out of here, Dave.
So do you because you earlier you said everything peaks. So do you peak the beer consumption for the meat?
Contrary to what the internet's popular belief, I drink quite a bit, but not repetitively. I'm like kind of like Hook, to where it's, you get your shit out of the way and then it's time to have a couple beers. But when I do, once that light switches on, I'm drinking to get drunk. I'm not drinking to be social.
Yeah. So the case during the warm up of your squat is it's
normal. Yeah, but it stays consistent. I don't try to go over the case because then who knows what's going to happen.
Does that, just out of curiosity, I get why it's there, right? So actually you should probably explain a little bit, like why did it come into the training or into your training, into the meet, right? Because you kind of touched on it a little bit. It becomes, the work's over.
Yeah.
It's like it's fun time, it's party time. Elaborate on that because I think it's important.
Yeah, I think it's just mental. It's like, now I'm here to enjoy my time with my friends. Now I'm here to put on a fucking show and show everybody what I just worked my ass off for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
But it's also meant to be fun. And that was kind of one of the bigger things that Ed instilled into me too. He's like, it's got to be fun. And we were over at Big Dogs in 2017, and before deadlifts, he walks over to me and he's like, you're going to deadlift great. Because like right before that, the MC guy was talking on stage, and they were all talking about my calves. And which it was funny to me, but I got up there and showed off. Like, I flexed my calves, and everybody was a good joke. But then, like, Ed came over and, like, said, he's like, you're going to deadlift great. I was like, well, I plan on it. What's up? And he's like, it's because you're having fun. This needs to be fun. And I do try to kind of pass that on to other people, too. But along with drinking, that the fun usually comes with that too. So it's kind of one of those things where it just falls in line. It's just like, hey, let's party. I'm here to have fun, but I'm also here to get shit done.
Yeah. So you're not going to get hammered.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No. With the amount of Halo, I couldn't get hammered if I wanted to.
Yeah. That's a whole other discussion there. So we already kind of talked about that, but because you already said that the orals are rough on you, so how long will you run those before a meet?
So there's a kind of a little takeover from the Lilliebridges factory. 9 days on, 9 days off, 28 days out. Keeps the water off you. Too super hard. But then, like, prior to those 28 days out, run them on heavy days. Like, Anadrol is a little easier. Halo, you got to kind of backload. And I only know that by trial and error. It's not a one-day thing, kind of like Anadrol is.
Yeah.
So, 9 days on, 9 days off. But if I'm hurting, I'll cut them all the way out. I'm perfectly fine with it. And then I don't know if you know much about test no ester or suspension. That's over the last couple of years. That's really kind of kept me away from orals altogether. Just running a little bit of that on a heavy day, and I won't even need the oral. And so that's a good thing to stay away from all those horrible side effects.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've more ran towards that than anything. That first time I did T&E, I split my mouthpiece open in half. I was so pissed off, but I was a good pissed off. Just squat 1102. So it was a good thing. But then again, it was like, holy shit, this is way better than Anadrol or Halo, shit like that.
Yes.
So, the side effects from those are not worth it. Especially what it does to your body over a long period of time. But some guys want to run, or some new guys suggested to run. It's daunting.
Have they ever hit you, the side effects, hard? Where it made you think twice?
Yeah. My GFHR was almost 58 2 years ago. That's why I took 8 months off after the Kern. And yeah, that was kind of a kick in the teeth for me. Hey, 34 years old, you kind of need your kidneys, bud.
Yeah.
So yeah, we dialysis once and kind of went through the process to work things back into normal operating function. Now I'm regulated right around 80 to 85, which is normal. It's really good, and I keep my eye on that. That's another reason that when I get on, I keep my blood work constant. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to keep up. And you know, since kicking most of my orals out on a regular basis, I've noticed my GHR doesn't fluctuate.
How did you know it was up?
Color of my piss, smell of my piss.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the blood work, of course.
Yeah. Well, so most of the people see they're not going to do the blood work. So I'm saying this because you're pissing, like
It's orange
green,
juice. It's orange juice.
So you're pissing orange juice.
And it smells like it's like a heavy night of drinking.
Yeah.
And then like we were talking about back pumps earlier. It's way worse.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like you got kidney stones constantly. And I went through kidney stones a couple years back too, and then I did it again, and I was like, hey, I think something's wrong. And that's even with my up my water intake, and that's when I was like, okay, my kidneys are not working like the way they should be. And then, not saying I'm young, not saying I haven't put them through the test, and like I know drinking doesn't help those things either, and I cut that back a lot more than I usually do. But then when I got things back in line, it came back into the story. So yeah, if they're paying attention to those things, and I think the orals, getting rid of the orals, helped a lot.
Yeah,
more.
well, the story matters because of those people that are listening that are driving that shit, through the roof, which is insane.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff it's always been kind of curious to me because the doses are bigger, where the D-ball used to be like 5 milligram Thai D-ball. They're little octagons, right? And like 4 of those things, I'd have lower back pain. It's like 20 fucking milligrams, right? And it's like, now you can't buy anything under like 50.
25, yeah.
Or whatever it's going to be. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm taking 200 milligrams. I'm like, first off, you're not. There's no goddamn way. There's just not. You're taking something.
Yeah.
But it's not that.
Yeah, 500 milligrams of whey protein filler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if they're taking 650s a day, which it's not, but let's assume it is just for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then obviously there's going to be issues that are going to stem from that.
Big time. Yeah. 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 And that was another thing too, was just learn by trial and error. It's just, you gotta find out where you're comfortable. You'll progress a lot faster being comfortable. So if you run it up a little bit, see how your body reacts. Okay, that's good. Keep it there. You run it up too much, your body reacts. You're uncomfortable. You're miserable. Cut it back down again. That's what I did, and that's why I want to pass on so everybody else learns. Don't run it all the way up because more is not always better. So start small, see the progress, move forward.
Yeah. So let's say where you're training now, 27-year-old super heavyweight walks in, that's totaling, 2,200 pounds and just doing all the shit that you used to do, right? Outside of like the shit that's getting handcuffs and shit on, right? all the other kind of stuff. What do you tell this kid? I'm not saying what would you tell yourself. What would you tell this kid? Because it's a different powerlifting world today than it was then. So I think that's a fucked up question anyhow, to say what would you tell yourself?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
But what would you tell that kid standing in front of you knowing that they could total 2,700 pounds someday?
Slow down. Not going to happen overnight. I did... that like the first 4 years I did rush everything and wanted that instant gratification, and that's where I ran into the predicaments we just went over with. So if you slow down, trust the process, go a lot slower, you're going to get there not faster, but you're going to have the longevity at that higher level, and you'll be a lot healthier.
Yeah. Well, that's easier said than done.
1,000%.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you convince that person?
Well, just proof's in the pudding. How do
But you didn't do it.
Right. Yes. Exactly. I didn't. So you don't have to.
Yeah.
That's the way, you'd like to see or be portrayed. Not saying they're going to, and everybody has their own choices. I'm not trying to be that contradictor, but it's just like, hey, if you do it this way, you'll last a lot longer at the top, or you'll get there and be more confident, more secure with it. So, but slow down and keep it fun, because I took it too serious for a long time too. I will say, and the more time that Donnie and I went back and forth quite a bit on this. The more time I focused on things outside of powerlifting that mattered to my life in general, the better my powerlifting progressed. Because once the first 4 years, it was on the front runner. I kicked family, I kicked jobs, I kicked everything. I sent a letter of resignation one day to a job when I was coming back home from the meet because I knew I couldn't make it to work. There was plenty of times where powerlifting was on the front burner, but the more I focused on, there's no fucking find the balance, because I mean, if it means something to you, it's always going to be in front. But the more you tried progressing on both aspects of life, whether it's business and powerlifting, if you progress both of those at the same time, you'll get a lot farther and faster. In my eyes.
Well, there's 4 burners on the stove.
Not mine. There's only 2.
But you get my point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So even a fucking campfire stove, there's 2, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's where, it's. I'm very intrigued with this all-in mentality. I get it. I did the same things that you're talking about, but not to the demise of my education or my future or all these other things. They were just at a lower priority.
Lower progress.
Yeah, so there's a difference between being your top priority and being your only priority.
Yeah. I believe that too. There was times in the first couple of years where I would have to borrow money from my parents just to go to meets and stuff like that. And now you see kids with GoFundMe pages and, I just want to get sponsored. I just need to get a sponsor to pay for my stuff. It's like, if you do it and work on yourself and progress outside of powerlifting, you'll go a lot farther, and it feels a lot better to stand on your own 2 feet.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of hours outside your time in the gym.
100%.
A lot,
should be,
right? So a lot of those excuses, I guess we could call them, it's just they just want to be fucking lazy.
Right.
I mean, that's all it is just do this. Your training won't be better if all you do is train and play video games.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right? Because then you're going to have to start programming in walking, to keep your conditioning level up.
Of course.
And something to get your mind off of it, to keep your mental health in check. Because if all you do is dwell about it the whole time, your mental health's going to go fucking shit. Yeah. So aren't we kind of talking about maybe a job?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something you can get insurance from.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true to a T. And like I said earlier, I took that one traveling job, so I got away from it. So 100% to keep my ass off the platform. So I didn't have time to peak and run into another brick wall. So yeah.
When it's not always good. There's bad meets, there's bad training days, there's injuries, there's all these other things that, it might be painting too glory of a picture, right? There's more adversity than there is prosperity.
Of course.
It's just kind of the nature of the whole thing. So what are you going to have when it is adverse to be able to distract you? Because the gym is the distraction from all the other stuff in our life.
Release, yeah.
So what's the reverse of that?
Yeah, what keeps you out of the gym?
Yeah, so that's what makes the gym progress better,
100%.
right? Because think about this, if we go to the gym to be able to make the rest of our life better,
where do we go to make the gym better?
So wouldn't it stand to reason that if you wanted to be really good in the gym, you'd have to go outside of the gym to be able to find a way to make that better?
Yeah. You're thinking, my brain is hurting right now. Got my wheels spinning too hard. No, that does make sense, though.
But that's where things can start to become more fun.
Yeah.
Right? Because if all your eggs are in one basket, and then you already know half your training days are going to suck, not all the meets go the way you want them to, then if you happen to get sucked into all the shit drama that you don't even need to be sucked in, that just creates this cortisol rabbit hole that you're never going to recover from anything.
You'll never get out of that one.
Yeah.
That brings a lot of light to the tunnel, for sure. I don't know, because the closer I get to, I don't say closer But like, the more I've talked about retirement the last 2 years almost, and I do feel like I want to be done pushing at this level. But talking like this and opening up my mind where you don't have to pay attention to the bullshit. You don't have to, trying to find. My other thing is too, where I put all this focus on powerlifting the last 6 years, 10 years. If I put that in another more lucrative perspective of life, like say what I really want to do, like real estate and stuff like that.
Yep.
If I put all that energy into that, like how far could I go with that? Because I already went this far with powerlifting.
All the skills are there.
Right.
It's just, it's one of the reasons why I started the company in the first place is for, lifters to realize all the skills that they acquire in the gym can be applied other places.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy because it fucking wasn't easy in the gym either.
Then it wouldn't be worth it.
It's not easy, but, having those other ventures like real estate and stuff like that are good things to be involved in.
Yeah.
Because it takes your mind off of it, but it's another game. Powerlifting can be it's a game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So's that.
True.
It's a game. And so both can be done.
Same time.
Yeah, at the same time. You just because there is you got another
Stretched out
job,
pretty
right?
thin,
So you're
yeah.
thin, right? Because you got a 60-hour a week, 50-hour a week job. So that becomes a little bit different discussion.
Yeah. 100%.
Were there any things you thought we were going to talk about I didn't bring up?
No, I was nervous as a three-peckered billy goat before I pulled in the driveway, and then it just kind of left. No, you talked about everything. I mean, anything else you want to, we can. Man, I appreciate this opportunity a lot. It was really great. It was really good to shoot the shit with you and like the whole history. I love watching what you're doing. You're literally the Joe Rogan of powerlifting. It's great.
I don't know about that.
No, just watching you evolve, because I've watched a lot of it over the years.
Yeah.
And you really come around. You're really great on the microphone, and you're great with the guests, no matter if it's, another power lifter or even like last week with the guy from the NFL. Like, that was really cool, too, seeing those different aspects of strength and stuff like that. So I think this is a great thing for our sport. It's really awesome to see you come to character with it, too. It's really great.
I like to sit down with people that have put that all in, right?
Yeah.
It's a fucked up thing to talk about, right? It is, and this is like the mystery of my world is how do we talk about it where everybody can understand it? Because your all in is going to be different than somebody else's, but somebody else can't understand because their all in's the all in they've ever done.
Yeah.
It's like hard work.
100%.
Right? Like their hard work's the hardest work they've ever done. But other people can look on it and say, dude, that's not even close.
I did that yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And other people that, have this all in mentality, there's a lot of them that are going to be like, dude, I'd never do that again. Like it was too much.
How much did you learn from it though?
Yeah. So exactly. So like, what is the right amount to be able to accomplish? I'm intrigued, right? Because I know what the wrong amount is.
Of course.
And I know what not enough is.
Yeah.
But I like other people to be able to hear the conversations and also to be able to hear that there's more that goes into a lot of these things than people think.
Oh yeah.
And that, it's interesting that, a lot of the political side and the online stuff, it bothers you, right? Where it bothers other people and they get pissed about it. Well, it also bothers people at the top too.
Yeah.
Right. So having a conversation about don't let it bother you is just as relevant to you as it is to somebody coming into the sport where we all share the same things.
100%.
And it's awesome to be able to sit down with you guys, especially the ones that have been humbled, right? Because that's a different. I don't want to sit down with somebody that's still ego is through the fucking roof.
Yeah, no, that's
right. Because I don't even know what lessons to be learned from there are.
Yeah, it's tough to talk to people like that.
Yeah.
For me, anyways. I mean, it's just the arrogance, I guess you can say. But then again, you also know in the back of your head it's coming.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's like,
and part of me is like, oh, how can they be better prepared for when it comes so it doesn't knock them out?
Yeah, but was I prepared?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't know, right? That's the journey, where to be able to sit down and talk about people's past and their journey and how they got to where it was, that is an intriguing thing that I love to be able to do.
That's cool.
And so I appreciate you coming out. How can people find you, follow you, whatever?
Yeah, Instagram, dbell74. Yeah, that's kind of the only social media I keep, even though it's still irritating. But yeah, that's it. Oh, I got a YouTube channel, but I don't really post much. Other than that, yeah, with Live Large and Pioneer and my sponsors, those guys have been taking care of me, never been stronger. They usually keep me posted on their sites, so that's where I've been kind of pushing most of my stuff too, just because of the nonsense on social media I stay away from. So,
Yeah. Now, one of the most important things that I think you said all day was, what was the name of the coach that you ran into at the very beginning of your strength training?
Oh, Crothers, John Crothers.
Brothers, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important for him to know that the message that you're sending now and the help that you're passing on came through him.
Oh,
you know,
man.
so when you have, you know, a motto of a company that's live, learn, pass on, you're amplifying exactly what that means.
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
know, and this is a testament to him as well as to you. You know, to you guys, thank you for listening, and we are done. Today's episode is brought to you by First Detachment. Are you looking for a supplement brand that truly understands hardworking athletes? Look no further than First Detachment. 1D's real world experience is what I would consider, and they consider, battle tested. I have known Justin Harris for pretty close to 2 decades. And if there's anybody that I trust with nutritional and supplement needs, it's Justin Harris. If you guys have followed me and have followed the podcast, you pretty much already know how I feel about the supplement industry. For me to get behind any brand, I have to trust the brand and I have to trust the person both. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know why. When it comes to creating formulas and putting products on the market, and there's nobody that I trust more than Justin Harris. While I love all of their products, I'd suggest that you check out the Field Rations and WTH first. Go to www.firstdetachment.com and use the code TableTalk10 to save 10% off each order. The link is in the description. Marek Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? You just go to marekhealth.com/table talk, and you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done, and then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use over the counter or prescription. marekhealth.com/table talk. The discount code is table talk.